Good afternoon. I'd like to invite everybody to the Placer County LAFCO meeting of Wednesday, August 13th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and please rise and follow me with the flag, salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amy, can you please have a roll call?
Right. Commissioner DiMattei.
Here.
Commissioner Eklund.
Here.
Commissioner Friedman. Commissioner Gustafson.
Here.
Commissioner Lohman.
Here.
Commissioner Rohan. Alternate Commissioner Landon.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Spriggs. Absent. Alternate Commissioner Youngblood.
Here.
And Chair Alpine.
Here. Thank
Great.
you. Do we have any reports from staff today?
No reports from staff, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to item 4, changes and approval of the agenda. Is there any changes?
No changes from staff.
Okay, thank you. Can I get an approval?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. This brings us to item 5, public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to speak to the commission on any subject within its jurisdiction that is not on today's agenda. You may, but you're not required to, submit a speaker card before the first speaker is called, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. Items from the public will be considered without discussion by the commission and may be referred to staff. At this time, I'd like to see if anybody would like to, from the public, speak to the commission. Please approach the podium here. Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, Spencer, Newcastle, California. I just kind of wanted to set the tone for the meeting today, and I thought it'd be good to start off with a quote by Ferdinand Magellan, and it goes like this: "The sea is dangerous, and its storms terrible, but these obstacles have never been sufficient reason to remain ashore. Unlike the mediocre, intrepid spirits seek victory over those things that seem impossible. It is with an iron will that they embark on the most daring of all endeavors, to meet the shadowy future without fear and conquer the unknown." I just wanted to set the tone for the meeting today and just to remind you of how important your decisions are and what they do for the citizens. There's a lot of different agencies represented here today, and I would just encourage you to have an open mind and really listen to what everyone's saying and how it directly affects the residents and people that live in those areas. I hope we can put pride and ego aside today and really remember what truly matters is the citizens you serve, and just go forward with that. So I appreciate your time. I wanted to say thank you to Ms. McIntyre. I saw her resignation letter for her dedicated work and service, and I hope LAFCO can move forward progressively and with an optimistic vision for the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Yeah, on any items not on the agenda. Public comment. Thank you.
Do you have to push anything? Okay.
No.
I'm Patty Knifer. I live in Penryn. Have for many years. My husband was a volunteer firefighter for Penryn for over 20 years, so we know the area well. This was before the paid staff came on board. I had just found out a couple of days ago that I knew there was a LAFCO board, but I really do not have a firm grasp on what the authority is, where it lines up in the hierarchy of Placer County, and if a LAFCO board can overrule a department's decision, if that's something that is looked at. So I don't expect an answer right now, but where can I look that up? How can I find out what the authority is for a LAFCO board and the decisions that you're making, if they're recommendations or if they're set in stone, this is going to happen and it's done. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Chair can.
I was going to wait till after public comment, then we'll we'll answer some of these. Anybody else? Any member of the public like to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda? Seeing none in the chambers, I'm going to close public comment in the chamber and ask those that are online, if anybody online would like to speak under public comment on any item that is not listed on the agenda but within the purview of the commission. Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment, and at this time, I'm going to have Executive Director McIntyre. Can you please give a brief explanation of LAFCO, or where they could find, where the public can find information about the agency?
Yeah,
and what
thank
we
you,
do?
Chair. I just wanted to give a quick plug to our strategic plan. You should have copies in the back, but it's also online, and it goes into LAFCO's authorities and our powers, as well as our responsibilities and our mission, vision, things like that. It is in the back. As part of the public hearing, I'm going to give a very brief overview of where we are with the process, so I'll wait until then. But if you, just a quick plug, if you go in the back, again, there it is, thank you. You'll find that document.
Okay, thank you. This now moves on to item 6, the consent calendar. Is there anything to add on the consent item, Executive Director McIntyre?
No, nothing from staff, thank you.
All right. At this time, I'll ask the commission, would any member like to pull any item on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'm going to ask the public if there's anyone like to comment on any item on the consent calendar. Seeing none, I'll ask the public online if anybody would like to comment on the consent calendar. Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'll bring back the consent calendar to the commission for action.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries unanimously. This now brings us to item 7. This is a public hearing. LAFCO Project No. Sorry, I need my glasses. 2503, Sphere of Influence Update, Newcastle, Penryn, Placer Hills, and South Placer Fire Protection Districts. CEQA lead agency, Placer LAFCO, exempt pursuant state CEQA guidelines, section 1506, 1B3, California regs. This will be a process. The public hearing process goes like this. You will hear a presentation from the staff. After the presentation, the commission could ask clarifying questions about the presentation and the item before it. Then we will open up the public hearing, or open the public hearing to the public. At this time, and at that time, the public you guys can add all the comments and address the commission on anything that you'd like to see in that of the item. We will close the public hearing once everybody's heard, and we will consolidate and answer questions, and then it will come back to the commission for action. So that's kind of the process. So it's very important to notice that once the public hearing is open to you, it's your chance to speak, because once it's closed, it takes a majority of the commission to open up the public hearing again. So, all right, if there's you all right, here we go. So, Executive Officer McIntyre, please.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Again, this is from our strategic plan, and if you bear with me just for a couple of minutes, because I know you've received this presentation from me I don't know, for like the last year, because we've been working on several service reviews, sphere updates, annexations, consolidations, et cetera. So this is exactly the same process, but I knew that we would have several members of the audience who may not have received the presentation. So this is, again, in our strategic plan, which, as I mentioned earlier, is in the back, so you can read it at your leisure. And then it also, their strategic plan goes into more in-depth information. So the LAFCO process can be broken down into 3 steps. The first step, which is a service review, a municipal service review, was conducted for the commission. We hired a consultant, AP Triton. There was a draft hearing for that item. We opened the draft for public comments, and we received numerous public comments and edits, et cetera. The commission then adopted a final service review, again at a notice public hearing. That is step 1. Step 2, which is where we are today, is the sphere of influence update. You will notice in the staff report that the first service review for these 4 fire districts before you today, it was the first service review. None of them have ever received a sphere of influence. LAFCOs beginning in 1972 were required to update establish and update a sphere of influence for every city and every special district within its purview. So for us, that's 6 cities, 37 special districts. And as I mentioned, we have been marching along for the last year and a half, going through all of our special districts, our cities, to, again, follow this 3-step process. So I want to emphasize that the first and second steps in the state law are shall. LAFCO shall conduct a service review. LAFCO shall establish and update a sphere of influence. This is, again, the process. Now, once you get to the third step, which is when you're conducting an annexation or considering an annexation, a detachment, a consolidation, a reorganization, et cetera. Now, that process is very different. As you may recall from all of our city annexations, from our consolidations with North Tahoe, Meeks Bay, and numerous other projects, there is a tax transfer negotiation that goes through the county and the affected agencies. There's also a public hearing, and we do notice all of the affected landowners, registered voters, et cetera. And so it is a very public process. And then again, once it gets to LAFCO, it is a public hearing. And then once LAFCO approves it, it goes back to the voters. You may recall that we recently had a project that failed at the protest hearing. So there is a protest hearing provision, and then there's also a possible election. So now the third and final step there, it is not a shall. Unlike step 1 and step 2, we are here at step 2. LAFCO shall establish a sphere. And so that is all that staff is requesting the commission to consider today, is to establish a sphere for these agencies. With that, I'm going to introduce Carol and Marcus, who helped us with the project management for this. It's project number 2025-03, the Sphere of Influence Update for Placer Hills, Newcastle, Penryn, and South Placer Fire Protection District. Carol and Marcus, take it away.
Good afternoon, Chair Alpine and fellow commissioners. Could you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Marcus McHale, Senior Analyst with RSG. I'm joined by my colleague Carol. She's here to help us answer any questions that may come at the end of the presentation. So yeah, let's just jump right in. As you may be aware, RSG has been engaged by Placer LAFCO to assist with preparing the Sphere of Influence updates for the following 4 fire protection districts. That's Placer Hills, Newcastle, Penryn and South Placer Fire Protection Districts as part of LAFCO's ongoing 5-year review cycle and consistent with the Commission's adopted annual work plan. These updates are informed by the findings of the recent municipal service review adopted by the Commission on April 9th, 2025, and they are consistent with statute and local policy. Specifically, these updates reflect the appropriate and near-term service boundaries for each district based on current conditions, capacity, and local planning priorities, and follow proposed reorganization options as detailed in the MSR. As we'll see in the upcoming slides, each recommendation addresses a different service context, ranging from coterminous alignment to adopting a no SOI designation. Next slide, please. For background context, the Commission recently adopted the Municipal Service Review in April involving the 4 fire protection districts subject to today's SOI recommendations, which include Placer Hills, Newcastle, Penryn, and South Placer Fire Protection Districts. It is typically the Commission's practice to update the SOI for agencies in step with the Municipal Service Review. But for reasons staff can provide, this was not done at the time of the MSR adoption. Therefore, RSG, on behalf of staff, has come forward with the proposed SOI updates for the 4 fire districts, which we will detail on the next few slides. Okay, and jumping right in, Placer Hills Fire Protection District. To RSG's knowledge, Placer LAFCO has not previously adopted a sphere of influence designation for Placer Hills Fire Protection District. As part of the SOI updates before you today, RSG, on behalf of staff, proposed establishing a coterminous SOI which aligns with the district's existing jurisdictional boundary. This SOI designation accurately reflects the district's current service responsibilities for fire protection and emergency medical services as certified in the April 2025 MSR. And as detailed in the staff report before you today, while there is no reorganization on file, including Placer Hills Fire Protection District, sorry, give me 1 second, I'm just having a technical difficulty. Moving forward with a coterminous sphere grants the Commission flexibility to amend the sphere later, depending on the results of the reorganization application. Likewise, adopting the coterminous sphere can help prevent precedent for any speculative SOI actions. More importantly, the coterminous sphere designation maintains a logical boundary framework reflecting of existing conditions. A map of the proposed spheres follows on the next slide. Next slide, please. So as shown on the map, the proposed SOI designation for Placer Hills Fire Protection District is coterminous, making the SOI align with the district's existing service area, which spans 33.77 square miles and is bisected by Interstate 80. Next slide, please. So moving on to Newcastle Fire Protection District, LAFCO also has no record of an SOI for Newcastle Fire Protection District. Staff proposes declining the adoption of an SOI, subsequently making it a 0 sphere based on long-term governance considerations. Specifically, adopting no sphere supports the anticipation of a future consolidation or reorganization with a neighboring fire district and is consistent with the Commission's policy C3. The zero sphere designation does not immediately change operations, but it reflects that no expansion of boundary or service area is planned or supported. And a map of this district follows on the next slide as well. Next slide, please. So as shown on this slide is a map of Newcastle Fire Protection District's jurisdictional boundary. This reflects no sphere of influence. The district boundary presently spans 15 square miles. It is anchored by South Placer Fire Protection District to the south, Penryn Fire Protection District to the west, and Placer County Service Area 28 to the east. The district is also bisected by Interstate 80. Next slide, please. Moving on to Penryn Fire Protection District. Penryn's existing jurisdiction includes a small area that overlaps with the town of Loomis, which will be reflected on the map in the next slide. Staff recommends establishing a reduced sphere that aligns closely with the district's jurisdiction, excluding the Loomis overlap. This sphere designation is recommended to ensure Penryn Fire Protection District's current and future service area creates logical boundaries and orderly growth. The town of Loomis is nearly entirely serviced by the South Placer Fire Protection District. Therefore, it is anticipated that South Placer Fire Protection District would reflect the most logical service provider to the area, and the recommendation is consistent with the findings in the MSR. Next slide, please. As shown on the map, the proposed sphere designation for Penryn is largely consistent with its jurisdictional boundary, with the exception of removing the portion of territory lying to the southern end of the district boundary. The area lies with the town of Loomis, and it is comprised of 111 parcels, approximately a total of 121 acres in size. As noted earlier, the town of Loomis is largely serviced by South Placer Fire Protection District. Therefore, it is recommended that this area be removed from the district's SOI with the anticipation of a future detachment from the district boundary upon receipt of a completed change of organization application. For additional context, the district's existing sphere/boundary spans 17.8 square miles and is anchored by the South Placer Fire Protection District to the south and Newcastle Fire Protection District to the northeast. Next slide, please. Moving on to South Placer Fire Protection District, staff is recommending expanding the district sphere to include the entire town of Loomis to align with current and future service needs. This is with the exception of the Sierra Bluffs community, which is proposed to be excluded from the district sphere. The correction addresses an oversight from Rockland's 1982 annexation of the Sierra Bluffs community, when the concurrent detachment from South Placer Fire Protection District was not formalized. Therefore, the proposed expansion of the district sphere, with the exception of the Sierra Bluffs community, further supports the Commission's goal to establish boundaries and orderly growth consistent with statute and local policy. Next slide, please. So, as you can see here, a map of South Placer Fire Protection District. The sphere designation reflected on this map is expanded to include the town of Loomis on the north, illustrated by the red dashed line on the top, extending beyond the district's jurisdictional boundary in green. Additionally, the green region on the bottom position encompasses the Sierra Bluffs community, which is comprised of 136 parcels, approximately 64 acres in size. This is now illustrated to be excluded from South Placer's sphere. The district's existing service area spans 42.1 square miles and is located mostly east of Interstate 80 and is situated with where Placer County and El Dorado County meet. Next slide, please. These slides outline the 5 sphere of influence determinations required by Government Code Section 56425E, which notably include attesting to the present and planned uses in the district sphere, as well as any current and future need for any public facilities and services. And on the following slide, the rest of the determinations are detailed. Next slide, please. The required SOI determinations also confirm the present and planned capacity of the agency's facilities and the adequacy of their services. The staff report before you today includes all required SOI determinations, which are largely informed by the findings of the 2025 Municipal Service Review. These have been provided as Attachment 1. Next slide, please. There are a number of commission policies that guide sphere of influence decisions. The proposed sphere of influence update for each of the discussed Placer County Fire Protection Districts is necessary, and it conforms with relevant LAFCO policies as detailed on this slide. Specifically, the proposed coterminous SOI for Placer Hills aligns with the Commission's policy preference to establish coterminous SOIs whenever possible. Additionally, declining to adopt an SOI for Newcastle, therefore assigning a zero sphere, aligns with the Commission's policy C3, which suggests zero spheres anticipate future reorganization and consolidations of districts, in which it is expected Newcastle will reorganize or consolidate with the neighboring fire agency. Next slide, please. Environmental review. With respect to satisfying the Commission's task under CEQA, LAFCO serves as the lead agency under CEQA for the sphere of influence amendment, and staff is recommending that the Commission find these actions are a, quote, project under CEQA, but exempt from further review under State Guidelines 15061B3. Staff believes this exemption appropriate given that spheres are planning policies and associated actions do not change the environment or authorize any new uses or services. Thank you. And to wrap up today's presentation, RSG, in coordination with LAFCO staff, recommends that the Commission adopt Resolution 2510, which updates the spheres of influences for 4 fire protection districts based on the findings of the recently adopted Municipal Service Review. The proposed SOI actions are as follows. Placer Hills Fire Protection District, coterminous with existing boundary. Newcastle Fire Protection District, 0 SOI, indicating no future expansion. Penryn Fire Protection District, reduced SOI to exclude the portion of overlapping the town of Loomis. And South Placer Fire Protection District, expanded SOI to include the town of Loomis, while also excluding the Sierra Bluffs community. As a friendly reminder to the Commission, the proposed actions are subject to a 30-day reconsideration period, during which time affected parties may submit written requests for reconsideration. As part of the recommendations, and as noted earlier, staff is making the determination that the proposed SOI updates are exempt under CEQA pursuant to Guideline Section 15061B3. On that note, we conclude the presentation and turn it back to your Chair Alpine for any questions or comments from the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the report. Now I'm going to turn it back to the Commission if there's any questions or clarification on the information we just received. Or clarifying questions?
I have one, Mr. Chair. Michelle, or consultants, on page 43 of the packet, under Placer Hills Fire Protection District, there's a sentence that the reorganization, this is the second sentence from the end of that paragraph, should the reorganization move forward and be approved by LAFCO, a subsequent amendment to the SOI can be initiated at that time.
So
And so I am a little more familiar with North Tahoe and Meeks Bay, where we didn't do the SOI at the beginning, we did it at the end. But this is really important caveat, that we can change this as we look at a reorganization in the future, correct?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Just to give a little bit of background on on what occurred with our last reorganization, which, as you mentioned, is the North Tahoe Meeks Bay. Going into the meeting to consider the reorganization, which was an annexation of Meeks Bay to North Tahoe. At that time, Meeks Bay had a 0 sphere of influence that El Dorado LAFCO adopted, again, because they were anticipating that there would be some sort of an action that would be required from LAFCO for this district. So going into the meeting, they had a 0 sphere. The North Tahoe, which is the district that we were annexing Meeks Bay to, had a coterminous sphere. And so the action on the agenda, the first action on the agenda, was to amend the sphere for North Tahoe to include the Meeks Bay area. And then the second item on the public hearing agenda was to consider the reorganization. Again, the annexation of the Meeks Bay into North Tahoe. So absolutely, it does not mean that once you adopt this sphere that you would have to wait 5 years. You can amend it at any time, as long as you do, you amend the sphere right before you do the reorganization. Same agenda, just different items on the agenda.
Thank you for that clarification. And then I know the commissioners have all received a letter from Penryn Fire Protection District with concerns about the timing and not having adequate time. I know we're going to hear from the public on that as well, but I just want to make sure everybody is aware we do have this letter, and I will be following up with further questions based on public testimony.
Yes, so again, we have, throughout the service review and also for the sphere, we do all of the required noticing, and these are projects that are mandated by state law. The commission, again, it's not a if, it's a shall. So we take all of the noticing requirements and apply that to the projects, and then the reorganization, as I mentioned, that is not a shall. That is, a totally separate process. And after the notice public hearing, and then we have, the commission, again, takes all the public testimony, and should the commission approve a reorganization, then it goes back to the public for a protest hearing, and we notify all of the registered voters and all of the landowners. And there is a separate protest hearing. And then, if needed, there is a potential election that goes through the county registrar of voters office. So it is a very public process.
I think, thank you, Michelle, and I think that we were very aware of the public process we have. And so I appreciate that, and making sure the public knows that there's steps to be taken. But some of the agencies have been very involved in this for many years.
Yes.
Meaning Placer Hills and Newcastle. Penryn obviously is concerned, and I want to respect that, and I want to hear their concerns about that today. So just
Thank
wanted to
you.
make sure we put that on the record, that we do have their letter.
Thanks, Commissioner Rohan.
Yes, I just wanted to echo, I have similar concerns. I appreciate your expression of those. Wholly agree with what you had to say. I'm anxious to hear from Placer Hills and Newcastle if they have any concerns about what we've been told by staff, because I'm uncomfortable moving forward with this if we find out later that that is not exactly how things can happen. I just want to make that real clear. I want to understand this rather than be fooled.
Any other commissioner comments? I have a comment based on if a agency has a reduced SOI, and that does not change does that change the way the agency gets funded, or do they lose that area that's not there? I'd like that's been a question that was asked about that area that they're being reduced. They still receive their assessments, their taxes, but just opens that area for a possible annexation or future reorganization, correct?
Yes, as Marcus mentioned during his presentation, it is a planning tool. And so, no, it is not, that nothing changes. The district is still the district that has to provide the service. They still collect revenue. They still, so through assessments and property taxes, et cetera. And so none of that continues. It's not until the, for example, with a city annexation, the city does not provide services, and they do not collect revenue until it is recorded, because it went through the public hearing, it went through the protest hearing, it went through a possible election, and then it's recorded, sent to the state. And so there is a very long process. It is not immediate, and again, it is not there. It's a planning tool, so there are no changes to the district's boundary.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Seeing that there's no more questions from the commission, we're going to open up this item for public comment. First, for those of us that are joining online, I'll open up for public comment in the room here. Once we have exhausted public comment here, I will close public comment in the chambers, and then open it for those that are joining us online. And that's why we'll start rolling. So with that, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Woo. Always wanted to do that. And
Penryn Fire folks, would you like them to go first, the Penryn Fire folks, before you hear from
no, you could just line up. If you like to line up, how about this? If you'd like to line up, please line up, and if you have, and then if you didn't get it at the end, I'll double check against the cards to see that everybody spoke, but we could just do it that way. The meeting will probably flow a lot better if you just like to line up and get in line and come up to the podium.
I need my glasses as well.
Yeah, no problem, yeah.
Thank you, Chair Alpine, LAFCO Commissioners, Ms. McIntyre, and the LAFCO staff. I am Cheryl Hotelling. I am the Chair of the Penryn Fire Board, and I am the representative to speak to the letter that we wrote. Thank you for acknowledging and for the receipt of the letter. I apologize it came so late, but we were unaware of the proposed change to the SOI for Penryn until we saw the LAFCO meeting materials, and we were completely unaware of the next agenda item, which we'll cover separately. So it took us 3 or 4 days to get our ducks in a row and to hold a special board meeting so we could present a position as the board. Speaking on behalf of the board, I must say that I'm extremely disappointed in the process that LAFCO used. As Ms. McIntyre stated, with the MSR process and the consultant, there were draft versions of the MSR that were released to the affected agencies and the public. There were multiple public hearings where it was discussed that I attended and we spoke to. That didn't happen with this SOI. This is the first that we've seen of it, and to propose a change to our SOI without any foreknowledge, it's just disappointing because I know that LAFCO tries to be very transparent and tries to get public input. Given the late notice, we had a little public input, but really could not fully gather public input before we came to this meeting. So that's very disappointing for us because the sphere of influence is an important planning tool, and it is used by LAFCO in conjunction with the MSR to look at consolidation. So it's not merely checking a box on a required component of law that LAFCO has to fulfill, but the SOI does influence future decisions of LAFCO. And when we look at the SOI being proposed as being not coterminous with our existing boundaries, our fire department recently celebrated a 100-year anniversary. We were established in 1924. The town of Loomis boundaries were established in 1984. We have been servicing that area of Loomis for 40 years without any issues with services, administration, or anything. So it is unclear to us how this is consistent, one, with the MSR, which did not identify any issues with our service delivery and our ability to service our area, and how this is meets the criteria for LAFCO of orderly growth. We've been handling that, or even logical boundaries. I understand that it would be great if everything was pieced together perfectly and all boundaries aligned with all boundaries. But given the history of this, we've been servicing that area for 40 years, and this does, even as a planning tool, set up for a annexation, possibly a hostile annexation of this area away from Penryn Fire District to the South Placer District. This is further supported by our concern that we will talk about in the next agenda item, where the LAFCO,
That's all right.
where the LAFCO is proposing to do a consolidation study and pay for a consolidation to consolidate Penryn with LAFCO. How can we not view this change in our SOI as a means of moving toward that direction?
Thank you, Cheryl.
So
I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Wes Moody. I'm a resident of Meadow Vista. My wife and I were very involved recently, several years ago, in the campaign to get Measure A passed. Measure A was a tax increase of individuals within the Placer Hills Fire District, increased property tax in order to save one of our 2 manned fire stations and also retain our paramedic services. During that process, we learned a great deal about Placer Hills Fire District, its considerable strengths, but also its challenges. The municipal service review that was referred to earlier had as identified as option 1, the merging of Placer Hills Fire District with Newcastle Fire District. And I'd just like to quote from the MSR what it said about that option 1. It said that option, quote, keeps all currently staffed stations open with at least the current staffing levels, provides 1 governing board, provides 1 administrative command structure, maximizes available revenues by establishing assessments through annexation, better career opportunities and compensation for many employees, and the least expensive of the options presented. The MSR then goes on to say that option one, which again is the merging of Placer Hills Fire District with Newcastle, it, quote, allows the affected communities and employees to choose the least disruptive options to enhance service and move forward in a planned fashion, unquote. So I'm here requesting that the commission adopt a sphere of influence that will permit the continued merging of Placer Hills Fire District with Newcastle Fire District.
Okay, thank you, Wes.
Good afternoon, Commission. Mr. Alpine,
Good afternoon. Yeah.
I think we could put my name on that damn chair. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm Ian Gow. I'm the fire chief of Placer Hills, Newcastle, and Penryn Fire Districts. The issue before you, we weren't thrilled about. We anticipated that the sphere of influence would follow what the MSR suggested. That said, I appreciate Supervisor Gustafson's continued support and guidance here, and we are, Placer Hills and Newcastle are comfortable that as we rewrite our application to you for our reorganization, that we can include updating the sphere of influence. We were aware of that, so we're grateful for that, and that puts our minds at ease significantly. And we're in a hurry. I just lost my first Newcastle firefighter. He can't hang on any longer. He's got a family to feed. So we want to get this done as quick as we can. We've redone our budgets. We've got our consultant working with us, so we'll get an updated application to you pretty quickly with resolutions so we can move forward. The big part of the problem we have was with my Penryn chief's helmet on, is that taking a piece, potentially taking that piece from Penryn could have dramatic financial implications on that little fire department. And that's a real problem for us. But I think we suggest a solution, which I think would be a win-win for all of us. It won't hurt anybody. You could put all of us in one sphere of influence and let the locally elected fire districts work together to decide what projects we create and to subsequently bring back to your commission. And other than that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Chief County.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Vic. I'm a Penryn resident. I did 43 years as a first responder, so I'm very familiar with a lot of what's going on. We love our Penryn Fire Department. The Penryn community has stepped up and voted for an increased assessment not too long ago to keep our fire department viable and doing the great work that they do. And it's obvious that the commission study is a very sterile, very limited and restricted study following LAFCO guidelines. So it's just a narrow slice of what the effects are and what the needs are of fire services in the unincorporated county. So, but I think the Board of Supervisors will realizes that. But unfortunately, it's clear that it's a precursor, the recommendations of the LAFCO report or the commission study, it's a precursor, and they said that in their own presentation that the only reason to do this is because of possible future consolidations. That's so wrong. That's putting the horse, or the cart before the horse. So the recommendations of that commission study have huge influence. And as far as Penryn Fire, you're going to take a fire district that's doing their best, and then with the community helping to provide an adequate service, sustainable service. And if you, for no reason, apparently there's no problem with the way services are now. We're going to create a problem by removing that portion out of the district. And for LAFCO to say that, well, this is, it's not going to happen from this report, but it will if it passes through the rest of the process, which it could very well. That'll be a huge hit to a fire district that's already looking at some other potential problems down the road that are going to degrade our first responsibilities, for the residents. The most important thing is to have, for the Board of Supervisors, to already have consolidation makes sense. And there are many forms of consolidation where you can keep the autonomy of the individual fire departments in that consolidation. CAL FIRE is a great example of that. They do it throughout the state. I wouldn't recommend the Placer County Fire model for our little districts. But there are other counties, in fact, that Napa County Fire is a great example. It's a CAL FIRE contract where the autonomy of the individual volunteer fire districts was maintained, but they consolidated all the other training, administrative, code enforcement for the cost savings. So there's a lot of ways we should work towards consolidation, but be very smart about it and maintaining the autonomy of these fire departments, because the quality of service that you get, the connection to the community, and the bang for the buck, you cannot beat. And Penryn Fire is a model of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic.
Hi, Jennifer White, Placer County. I'm really concerned about moving the sphere of influence for many reasons. I'm in Newcastle. I enjoy our fire department being there. It's going to be insolvent at some point. And we heard we just lost a firefighter. Our firefighters have no benefits. They don't have the pay that other firefighters get because the contracts won't go through together. So they're fighting for us at a loss. They take the same risks, they work as hard, and they get less payment than maybe everybody else in our county. I'm not sure. But my question really is too, like, are we doing in these spheres, are we calculating what the insurance rates are going to happen to the citizens? Because right now insurance companies are looking to drop people left and right. And if we remove one of these fire stations, are we going to cause our citizens to have higher insurance rates for no reason? We keep doing all this low-income housing and making sure everybody has a house, but we're not doing anything to decrease bills or make things affordable for the people that have been here and built up the community. We're doing our 2050 plan right now too, and we're also trying not to lose the identity of smaller rural communities. And you are taking our identity away by taking away these little fire stations. They're not little, they're really big to us. They're close by. We have an aging population that needs EMS services as well. And we are living in nonstop fire territory. I don't want to see my insurance rates go up, and I don't want to lose the support and the safety that I have by these fire stations closing. In Penryn, it was said if they lose this 121 acres, they lose $160,000. That's the amount of money that they need to pay the admin to be in Placer Hills. So I'm not sure if that was explained in the study or not as well, but I don't think these studies are completely showing all the little things and how it's going to have a domino effect, because if Penryn and Newcastle and Placer Hills can't go together, how is this going to work? And the studies take a long time to continue to do anything or say anything. And I would just, the other thing too, if Newcastle gets a contract, we're going to have a life support system in our area that we don't have anywhere else, and it will benefit all the surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Stephanie Barger. I'm a long-term resident of Penryn. I left for a while but came back and did vote on the tax to keep our Penryn Fire Department. And I think it's really a disservice to all those that worked and put hundreds of hours into that and taking out their own pockets to keep the Penryn Fire Department. So, and I'd like to talk more about process. I couldn't find anywhere in your 25-26 work plan Penryn Fire District. I saw Newcastle, I saw Placer Hills. So once again, why is this coming up last minute? I have a full-time job. I had to, changed my plans to go to the meeting last night. I haven't had a chance to review everything. I'm just looking through your website. Your vision and mission and value is to engage all partners and anticipate changing conditions and do it proactively. There is nothing proactive about this. And once again, I think that's a disservice. It's part of your vision, your mission, and your values. Like everybody has said, and I'm going to agree with everybody that has comments about saving Penryn Fire Department. We don't know what's going to happen to Penryn. It might become its own township or its own city. The growth is out of control, and I will say that that is part of your values and your mission is to stop urban sprawl. And Placer County is out of control, so I don't know what you're doing proactively to stop urban sprawl. I don't know if you've been to any of our meetings about the HOPE project. That has to do with Penryn Fire District and if it's going to be able to handle that or not handle that or help stop the development of the HOPE project and many other projects. So I just have you go back and really look at your missions and values and what you're supposed to be doing to support all communities. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Vicki Hall. I bought property in Penryn in 1975. I've resided in Penryn since 1978. I do not understand all of the ways and means by which an elaborate bureaucratic system is identified and listed and put up on the board as though we now are going to understand everything and know what's going to happen to us. But I do see that the reduction of the SOI means that potentially my property is no longer included in the Penryn Fire District. I was one of those people who voted to increase taxes, to pay a special tax so that the Penryn Fire Department could survive. When I came to Penryn, this was a volunteer fire department. For many years, I bought my citrus from Steve Piltz, who was a volunteer fireman and then, of course, was on the board. We do not want to lose the character of our community, number one, but we also do not want to lose these services. My husband has a seizure disorder. We have to call the EMTs all of the time. He has even taken a spill from a seizure in rocks behind the house, managed to get himself in bed and bleed all over the pillow. This is an ongoing issue, and I think that, first of all, the whole mumbo-jumbo aspect of it is very disconcerting to me because I'm supposed to come here and understand this. I don't understand it, but I understand that if I'm excluded from this district now, because I'm right where Newcastle and Loomis and Penryn meet, out on Eagle Rock off of Rock Springs Road, that might affect my insurance. And all of us are just hanging on to the edge of the toilet bowl to keep our insurance, cutting down trees, putting on hardy panels, doing whatever we can, putting in Vulcan vents, doing whatever we can to keep our insurance. And we're terrified. I think the personal aspect of this, the terror aspect of this, is something that I want to pass on to board members. This is very, very real. This is very, very personal. The whole aspect of having our own fire department, being able to go and talk to the firemen, being able to go and get their help when we needed to get an application for permitted burning or something, this is all very, very important to us. And to just ignore it is wrong. We're not dead, we're just old.
Thank you, Vicki. Good afternoon.
My name is Pam Asai. I'm a resident of Penryn. And I too had to look up the purpose of your commission. There are so many agencies that are affecting my way of life, my home, and my neighbors that it's very disconcerting. It's very stressful. One of the purposes of your commission is to preserve agricultural land resources, encourage orderly formation of local governmental agencies, prevent or discourage urban sprawl, As has been mentioned by other people, I don't believe you guys are doing that. Urban sprawl is rampant in my neighborhood. And now you're going to take away our protection that we so desperately need, since we live in a fire district, and the agricultural land is very important to protect. If you're going to move it over to Bickford Ranch, those people are going to have fire hydrants. They're going to have manicured lawns that are watered all the time. You know, we don't have that. That's so unrealistic and ridiculous. You're not representing us. And, you know, to say that, you know, encourage orderly formation of local governmental agencies, you didn't even include us, much less have an orderly formation of what you're doing. You know, for me to come to this meeting for the first time in my life and hear many people have been working really hard on this for years, and we just found out about it, it's just mind-blowing. You people, you know, gather salaries every month and every year. Come out and take a look at where we live and how you're affecting us. Let me end by saying a summary. We strongly encourage the Commission to approve an SOI for Penryn Fire that is conterminous with its existing jurisdictional boundaries, or alternatively, to provide an SOI that encompasses all of the special districts in the southern part of the county, to allow future potential consolidation efforts to be initiated through the normal LAFCO process, not under the table, or not just forgetting about us. Do it through the normal LAFCO process based on discussions by the affected agencies and broader public input, as opposed to being driven by an SOI that has been developed without any input from the affected agencies. This country is beautiful country out here, and you guys are letting it go to shit.
Hi, my name's Dennis Bergstrom. I've been a Penryn resident for 25 years now with my wife and myself. I was also on the board of Penryn Fire during COVID, chair during COVID, which was pretty tough. So I'm intimately knowledgeable of what Penryn Fire deals with in financial terms and what we bring to the table for, you know, all the resources that we bring to the table. I would ask that you will leave our sphere of influence the way it is right now. That little tiny piece that I could hardly blow up my phone to look at didn't look like much. And I understand it seems logical because it's in the town of Loomis and just to follow the township. Well, in fire, we have, you know, we take care of each other, and we're always against over boundary lines because we have mutual aid provisions. So those boundaries mean nothing except it's about the money at the county. So if you take that away, we're going to lose, estimate, $160,000 annually, and that is what we pay for our leadership admin contract with Placer Hills, which is very important to Placer Hills because it's keeping them afloat. So it wasn't long ago where our finances were not in great shape, and we had the Measure A and Measure C passed with 70-something% approval from the stakeholders. Myself, as a stakeholder, we passed it, and we're now getting the benefits of that. I'm very concerned that the reason why we're getting picked at is because we have too much money in the bank. I'm seriously thinking that this is a money grab, and that, you know, I would say to the board that if we start having issues with having this workaround consolidation rather than the old way, which was, I was in those meetings with South Placer. We were in discussion. We probably would have had a deal back then, except the chief retired or moved and resigned, and all of a sudden it blew the whole thing up. So there is a basis for us to actually negotiate these things and work amongst ourselves with the stakeholders, with the elected and appointed officials of the board that should be involved. shouldn't be this workaround behind closed doors and the backward action. That is just bad form the way it's come through. And I would say vote no for changing our sphere because it's not fair. We've done a really good job and we protected our citizens and we put money into that, that station. It is now, you could have it as a cooling station during the heat days because we have a generator. And it's more than just a fire station. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dennis.
Hi, I'm Faze Walkenberg. My husband and I have lived in Penryn for 35 years. We love Penryn, and the residents of Penryn care about our fire department, our fire district, and that's why we passed the parcel tax so that we can keep our firehouse open. And it seems that the future of our fire district is being decided by others. And our fire district needs to be included and heard in decisions that affect our fire district. If a lot of these decisions are being made because of money, why don't the other districts request a parcel tax so they can afford their fire districts? I truly hope the concerns of the residents of Penryn are considered, and any decisions regarding Penryn future includes our fire district are made by the people of Penryn and by our fire district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patty Knifer, Penryn resident. I wanted to thank Susan Rohan and also Joshua Alpine for really looking at the effects of what this kind of a change of districts, of sphere of influence will have on individual departments. I need to correct something. The Penryn Fire Protection District, while we may be one station, we are fully staffed, 24/7, trained firefighters with benefits, PERS, medical. We've done our utmost to make sure that the firefighters have a good income. We even give annual bonuses to our firefighters. I don't know where that's heard for anyone else who does that. And it comes because the community is willing to put up the extra money on the bond issues and that they appreciate the services so much. They know where every small road is. We're not in survival mode. We're in full force fire protection mode, and I'd be willing to put our department up against any other department in Placer County. The planning tool concept is a problem because a planning tool shows things that are probably going to happen. I've seen that happen. Taking parts of a district away affects financially the department. We're talking about close to 8% of the annual income for the department if the commercial areas in that section is taken away. And I'm just guessing, I'm close, but that is a huge chunk of a fire department's annual income. We have a fairly new engine. The fire community and I myself and several others raised $250,000 to put toward the new fire engine. I mean, that's almost unheard of, door-to-door businesses, and it's not a failing department. The question I have also is the election that was referred to. Will it be the citizens voting about the changes in the sphere of influence? How is that going to happen? Because you know that the residents who appreciate and support the fire department are going to vote from taking things away. And while I have just 20 seconds left, I was part of seeing LAFCO take Bickford Ranch away from the Penryn Fire Protection District. 1/3 of Bickford Ranch was serviced by Penryn, which would have been a great income. No compensation whatsoever. LAFCO just said, no, it now goes to, I think it was South Placer or Cal Fire or something like that. So it's happening again, and I think we're going to do everything we can to make sure you understand the effect.
Thank you, Patty.
Hello, my name is Aaron Hardesty. I've been a Penryn resident for about 30 years. I got involved with Penryn Fire about a decade ago when it was first financially in trouble. And originally we did have our financial troubles, but we put that behind ourselves. We made ourselves solvent despite actions of other agencies. And it seems like the same thing is repeating itself. We keep propping it up and other people keep trying to tear it down. As Patty just mentioned, Bickford Ranch was part of Penryn. So if you guys want to make all of Loomis, give us Bickford Ranch to make us whole. Because ultimately, we have a great fire station. So does South Placer, so does Newcastle. If my house is on fire, if I have a medical emergency, I don't care who shows up. They all will. They all work together. So what we're talking about is money. And you're taking money from South Placer, or giving it to South Placer and taking it out of Penryn when we've worked hard to make ourselves whole. Thank you.
My name is Brian Myers. I'm a resident of Penryn and chairman of Placer Citizens for Neighborhood Rights. I was on the fire board from 2011 to 2016. We were in dire financial straits. We had a hard time keeping it open and paying the salaries. South Placer, we approached South Placer at that time and said, hey, look, we got some problems. Are you interested? Not a chance. You don't have enough money. You're not worth our time. That's the exact quote of what we were told by South Placer at that time. So what happened? I left the board and I ran our Measure A campaign. We passed that with a 78% yes vote, the highest vote for any tax measure in Placer County at that time. Our citizens supported our fire department. We've had 4% COLAs every year. The fire department now, Penryn Fire now has $2 million in reserves, has retirement, has benefits, is really doing a fine job. So what happens? Here comes South Placer. Hey, we want you back now. Your next item is to consolidate. But they want this little piece right away. Could cost us $160,000 in Penryn. That's just not right. You should postpone this item or vote no on this item and make these two districts go talk about this. They should come back to you with a solution. It shouldn't be top down, you folks telling Penryn how fire services should be done in Penryn. You should tell the two districts, go talk about this. See what you can come up with. Maybe they can reach a resolution, maybe they can't. But it's not up to you folks, with all due respect, to give us a top-down solution with 5 days' notice. We had 5 days' notice of this item being on the agenda. Our own board didn't even know about it. Our chief didn't know about it. The MSR doesn't mention this. All of a sudden, somehow South Placer gets this on your agenda for a decision today about changing the sphere of influence. Leave it. It's been that way for 100 years for Penryn. So why not leave it for a little while longer? Let's get some more homework done, let's get more research done, and then make an educated decision. Don't just make a decision based upon South Placer saying, we want some at Penryn. We'll be back up to talk about the studies too, because they're all intertwined. But postpone this item, vote no on this item now, make these districts go talk together before you make any sort of decision. It's only fair to us, the residents of Penryn, that we have some input. We have had zero input. This is it. This is our input to you today, because there's been no hearings, no communication, nothing in Penryn to talk about this. So we ask you to please recognize that we're a community that deserves representation and deserves support. We support our fire district. We ask you to support our fire district. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Hello, my name's Cord Lamphere. I have my son here as well. I've been in Penryn for 30 years, and I can't say it any better than that. Give Penryn a chance to talk to South Placer, let them work it out. I really think that there's definitely, the other benefits will come if you get the parties together and help them work. But don't decide on this today. That's like just hammering down, and I understand the research was done. I'm sure they did a great job, but let's be real. They don't live here. So I'd like to see somebody that lives here make decisions on fire for Penryn. And we've worked really hard to get Penryn where it is. We're very proud of it, and we want it to continue to be what it is and keep growing and be healthy. And you can help with that by delaying this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm John Anaker. I don't live in Penryn, but I live in Newcastle, just close to the tip of the northeast needle of that very narrow district area. It's been good for me because, like Penryn, Newcastle's a small area. And couldn't help but be impressed about the impact that the residents of Penryn are feeling. And so, not assuming that you don't, but let me affirm or encourage you to really take seriously the comments you've heard from the citizens of Penryn, because they're real people and they live in a small town. Unofficially small town, we're not towns. But speaking on behalf of Newcastle, or I shouldn't say on behalf of Newcastle, I can only speak as a resident. I'm also a county appointee to the Greater Auburn Area Fire Safe Council. One of the things that strikes me, and I think about it a lot in relationship to all of this, is we are really communities. And the firefighting team, for example, and the fire board members are not strangers. It's more like family. And we say, we need to work and try to figure this out. And they work hard at figuring it out. I don't really know the ins and outs and history of Penryn's relationship, but we share a common chief with Chief Gow, and I have seen Chief Gow in action a lot at our Newcastle Fire Board aspect. And I am amazed at what we get for what we're able to pay. You know, I mean, don't tell them to take flight, you know. We are really blessed and very grateful. I have, as I said the last time I was at this microphone, I pray for you guys a lot. I urge the Lord to provide you with the benefits of frequent passages I read in the book of Proverbs, written 3,000 years ago by the wisest man in the world. And I pray that you have that wisdom, whatever it might be. And it might not be what I want, but what I want is clearly, I want to see Placer Hills and Newcastle become one. So that's clear. But even when I was praying on the way over here, and praying for that, beseeching God for that, I said, unless you've got a better plan, and because his plan's always best. And I just urge you to, one thing I would ask you to do is work with the staff in their presentations, because while all of you are familiar with the process, most of us aren't. I think the staff could improve getting the cookies on the bottom shelf, and I would urge you to help them do that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Joe.
I'm Cheryl Burke. I'm at Granite Bay, so I'm South Placer Fire. We have a MAC meeting every month, and Fire is there, CAL FIRE is there. We have a lot of representation from everyone. I would like to say in the past, like 5 or 6 years, we have had so much development, and our services and infrastructure are not keeping up. They don't do studies. We've recently had rezones, 33% of the rezones for Placer County are in Granite Bay. We've had senior centers approved left and right, taking up the majority of our calls. If you have a heart attack, good luck, because they're at a senior center somewhere. So I know they consider it an affluent community, which is why they push the rezones there. But with a $1.37 billion budget in Placer County, there was no newsletters. Cindy Gustafson, you are the chair here. You did not give any reports, just this last board meeting. Nobody knows about the LAFCO meeting. The newsletters, no newsletters. You didn't come to the MAC. There's plenty of opportunities. You have the budget and the resources, and we actually expect more. There's 3 supervisors in this room right now, and I realize you're new. But where is Placer County dealing with services and infrastructure? You certainly put money into EIRs and getting the staff to approve everything, but you're not keeping up with services. And our fire department recently, and this year, I don't know what it was called, but there was another service level analysis done by LAFCO, and there was no decision at that time. They had a there was a decision to annex or to align Dry Creek. So then previously we had Sac Metro. And so there's like lots of things happening in the background that the public's not aware of. And we find out after the fact, and I think it's important that we go to the more narrow work of getting done what instead of what was presented here today. I agree with the speakers. It's so narrow. We don't know anything that's actually going on. Where are the salaries? Where are the trucks? We just approved in Penryn all these rezones on Hope Way. They don't even have a ladder truck to service it. You know, I mean, there's real considerations to think about. I would also agree that we should hopefully postpone this decision. I cannot believe that the agencies have not come together with some type of options, at least, on what are you actually agreeing to? What are the options, and why didn't the executive summary say, here are the options with all the agencies, whether they agree with all of them or not? It doesn't seem like it's ready for prime time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. My name's on one of the cards. I'm Alex Harvey. I'm on the president of the board of directors for Placer Hills. And like board member Gustafsson alluded to, we've been working on this for years and years. And back in 2016, we opened up a relationship with Newcastle that we provided joint admit service, and also provided line personnel whenever needed between the two agencies. Since then, we have worked with Penryn and did the same exact thing. We share admit with them and personnel, and it's been an excellent working relationship. And we feel already that we are one department pretty much as it is. I know the MSR is all over about the SOIs and whatnot, but as you might or might not know, we've been having directors meetings about the last 5 or 6 months from all four, actually 5 for us still also. But what we've come to agreement with, though, is what we'd like to have your board consider is to have the SOIs all combined with Placer Hills, Newcastle, Penryn, and South Placer. That way you get it done, over with. It's a clean thing. There's nothing to lose doing it, and it would keep us and help us in the future to provide service to the citizens of all those districts, and future reorganizations and JOAs. And so, thank you.
Yeah, they want to take his big sphere.
Chair Alpine, Commissioners, I'm Jim Heisterkamp. I'm the chair on Newcastle Fire Board. We have a dilemma. You know, essentially, Newcastle is satisfied with the SOI that was given to Placer Hills and the SOI, the no sphere, given to Newcastle that would allow us to move forward. The problem is that we have it all combined into this one resolution, a 2025-03, which makes it problematic for us because if we're not in support, right, of 2025-03, essentially if we're in support of that, then it really is counterproductive for Penryn, and we're not inclined to be counterproductive for Penryn. We believe that overall we should add a global type of sphere of influence with coterminus all around the board, and then ultimately we could have changed that down the road. So I'm torn because I would hope that we could carve out Placer Hills and Newcastle. I'm not asking for that. What I'm asking is that we go back to the drawing board and repair what's presently broken for Penryn. So that's my ask. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Good afternoon, Commissioners Board. Spencer, Newcastle, back again. I know you missed me. I just wanted to speak on just a couple things that I'm seeing here. Is that I appreciate what LAFCO does, but I think what's kind of going on here is we're getting some distractions. And so I'm in support of Newcastle and Placer Hills merging. As a resident, as a fireman, and a bachelor's degree in economics, I can see the financial background and firsthand what it does with 3 people on a fire engine. I've said this before. And unfortunately, recently my family had a medical emergency where that kind of came into play. And so I experienced it firsthand, which I hope none of you have to do. And the Newcastle Fire Department were unbelievable. But I know what it is to have 3 people on that engine. On page 177, County Exec Chatigny clearly states again the financial impact, which is 0. So he reviewed that. So I think we kind of need to do one thing at a time. Go ahead, sir.
I think that's an item 8A that you're referring
Oh,
to.
sorry, but I'm just referencing it in
Yeah,
relation to
that-
this. Thank you.
Perfect.
So I think what we need to do is just one thing at a time here. So now, we have this Penryn issue kind of coming up, and then if you look down, we got to have a business item to do a fiscal study. I love studies, but it just seems like right when we're on the brink of making a decision or some form of progress, we're going to introduce another study. And then we'll study that study, and maybe we can study the studying of that study. So I think we need to make some progress here and kind of move forward for what you hear from the residents, local residents, myself included, and Penryn. So let's get rid of some distractions here, and let's move forward on one thing at a time. And I think with the merging of Newcastle and Placer Hills, because if it doesn't happen in 2028, Newcastle can't afford it. I think with that, and as you've heard, letting the local agencies speak together to find out what's going to work best, I think that will move things along. But I would really like to see some progress from this board as a resident, as a former firefighter myself, knowing again firsthand with the impact you can have. It would be nice to see some progress instead of distractions and gaslighting some things. And again, just throwing out these different studies. We've done studies after study. Chief Gow's going to redo his application. Again, you have your county executive that's greenlit it. So, let's make that happen. And again, now you've heard from the residents on Penryn. I think it sounds like we should take a pause on that. That's my personal recommendation. But again, just with all these studies and all the time and a lot of dead trees here, I think we can actually hopefully make some progress and make a decision with some of the studies that we have. I mean, again, we have a pretty good amount here that's all coming at the taxpayers' cost here, which would be another $37,000 for business item 8. So again, I hope we can make a positive decision to move some things forward. I think the writing's on the wall. You've heard from the residents here, and yeah, you're elected to do that by us, and so I hope you can follow through with that. Thank you.
Spencer, thank you.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank all of you for your work and the opportunity to speak with you guys today. My name is Nicole Paskey. I have the privilege of sitting on the board of Placer Hills Fire Protection District. We have anxiously awaited the SOI related to the municipal services review that is now before LAFCO for approval to be able to move forward with our application and process that's been in process since October of 2022. I'm here to express concern with the process and what seems to be a lack of transparency regarding the sphere of influence that has been developed and is now being recommended by LAFCO without any input from the affected agencies. We, as elected officials, have an obligation to bring information to our constituents for awareness and discussion, which did not occur in this case. Sphere of influence and consolidation of fire service should not be taken lightly. The level of service being provided to the constituents of our communities should be the main focus of these discussions. While we understand that consolidation may be in the best interest of the districts in the future, it should be the choice of each independent district, their boards, and most importantly, the constituents in those communities that we are obligated and have the honor to serve. The SOI presented today is not in alignment with current existing boundaries, and we wonder why the sudden change. Does not align with the current MSR that has been reviewed, ongoing for years, and adopted. With that, we respectfully ask that LAFCO consider adopting a global sphere of influence that includes all 4 districts included in the MSR, and to allow those independent districts to work together to establish the most effective and efficient and functional level of service to our communities. So with that, thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Tracy Rand. I'm the president of the South Placer Fire District Board. I come to you today in regards to this item. The MSR, when it came out, we had put forward a letter requesting sphere of influence for Penryn, Newcastle, in case there was any consolidations to happen in the future. Also, along with that was the little area that you were talking about in this particular item. That item of that small area in the town of Loomis that's being provided by Penryn was solely to look at the possibility of bringing it in to make continuity of the town to the district. Much like the area that is going to Rockland is part of the city and not the unincorporated. So with that though, I've heard some comments from individuals about getting together and speaking about this between Penryn and South Placer, see if we can come to some sort of an agreement or understanding in this portion of it. And as a board, we're open to that. So if it pleases the board or the commission, that is something that we're open to sit down and talk to them. It is not, we weren't here for a money grab. It was strictly for continuity. And then the Penryn and Newcastle side of that was to make sure that whatever came out of the MSR, because there was multiple options that were in there, was the best interest of the public, the community, and the fire service in Western Placer County. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Good afternoon. My name is Randy Neifer. I am a 39-year resident of Penryn. I spent 12 years on the fire board, but more importantly, I spent 26 years in uniform on the engine for Penryn Fire. I just want to, I don't want to echo everything that you've heard. I want to just describe that little piece on Swetzer Road that everybody's talking about. We took care of that. I mean, that was part of our boundary. But you might be hearing whisperings in your ear about, well, South Placer can get there before Penryn. In my years on the engine, we had one motto, and that was to beat Loomis. We were always the first on. Nothing gave us more of a smile than to do the initial knockdown and realize, oh, Loomis is arriving. So it's not a matter of how far we are. It's a matter of our training, our service, and I worked with some of the greatest guys on that engine. So please keep that in mind. Keep Penryn Fire whole. We really do need that 8%. It's more important that we're able to just keep that engine, the apparatus, the guys, and the station whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is JP Miller. I'm a Penryn resident. First thing I want to do is echo support for virtually every comment that has gone here. I urge you to not adopt this study. I urge you to leave the sphere of influences as they are. Clearly, we need to figure out something with Newcastle and Placer Hills. Got it. Don't roll it up in an omnibus for everything else. Now, on a general thing, I love Penryn. For all those of my Penryn neighbors, I'm the guy on Humphrey at Colwell with the very outspoken banners. My wife and I would love for you to stop by.
Hey, please address the commission.
For sure.
Thank you.
We're pretty outspoken.
That's right.
And given the way that, well, let me address the elephant in the room. Given the Hope Way project, given this project, and given the perception that's happening in Penryn, the elephant in the room is you all feel like you can make decisions on our behalf without including us. Now, I may be wrong, but I'm telling you that's the perception right here. I spent a lifetime career in the military and then another career with DOD, and I thought I would retire to a nice little place here in Penryn, enjoy the lifestyle, and I am shocked at how much I have to be involved with politics on an area which it should be neighbors working with neighbors. I know all mine. Love them. I'm not getting that from you guys, not at all. And I guess that's the elephant in the room. We don't feel like we're being heard. We feel like there's another study, and trust me, in my background, we can study the studies of the studies. But you will not have an effective organization, and you will not generate support, and I know this from working all over the world, unless you have all the organizations online and feeling like that they've been considered and that their needs and their objectives are working toward the overall mission. And right now, that's absent. And you're gonna have to deal with it. I don't know what the fix is, other than to be more open, and other than to probably listen to what the people are saying here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, Wayne.
Good evening, Chair Alpine. I would say it's evening.
Yeah,
and commissioners. Wayne Nader. Just to give you a little bit of background, in the late 90s into the early 2000s, I served on a fire district board for North Auburn and covered also the Ophir area. And during that time, much of the time, I was the chair for the board. And I served also as president of the Placer County Fire Districts Association, which represented all the fire districts in Placer County. So I'm well aware of the issues. I mean, these issues have been going on since the 70s, obviously, as you all know, when it got locked in what these districts would get as far as revenue. And so I will say, just because, again, I'm not directly involved right now with fire, but the service that this provides to our communities is absolutely essential. I don't think I necessarily need to say that to you, it's obvious, but for life and property, this is critical. And I can tell you from my perspective of being around districts is you will not find any more passionate people than the communities that support their fire district. I think of Forest Hill, I think of Penryn, I think of Newcastle and South Placer. All of these have really stepped up as a community and supported it. And what I'd like to say, two more things I want to make a point on, is that if you wanted this to be contentious, you certainly accomplished that. And I don't think you personally, but I think the staff made a mistake in not involving these three districts in some kind of communication. I mean, getting 5 or 6 days notice of this, I think that's absurd. And it's an embarrassment. You shouldn't be doing this. I think all of you understand, all of you have been in leadership, you understand that communication is absolutely critical when you're trying to accomplish some objectives. And the outcomes are better when you involve people in that process. The other thing that I wanted to, about with this piece of property that we're talking about in Loomis, you as a commission cannot and should not take away a property that will impair the financial strength of an entity that you're in, that you're considering right now. And this will have an impact. And so I'm urging you to not make that change, and that you leave the lines as they are and not impair Penryn Fire. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else in the chambers here that'd like to address this item under under the public hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to close public hearing in the chamber and open up the public hearing for those that are online. If anybody online would like to speak, please raise your hand, and we will start calling.
Greetings, Commission. This is Diane Louise Alessi from Christian Valley Park Community Services District. And I can appreciate just the fact that our enterprise is potable water and roads for our district and what our sphere of influence is, and understanding a little bit about that, sitting on the board in the history of Christian Valley. Although this is not a direct impact to my neck of the woods, I do 100% support Penryn community in their objection to losing part of their sphere of influence. I do believe that that's definitely a constituent weigh-in, and obviously I know the history from Christian Valley when they went back after realizing district roads needed to be maintained, but were going to be used by other out-of-district people. So I think there's probably some kind of mechanism for you to do an exchange of a sphere of influence, possibly, to consider, but for this meeting today, I think you can't pass it as it's presented. I believe that Penryn deserves the attention to keep its autonomy. And I just basically am in support of that entire community. I think that they're getting the short stick from the county every which way and every time they turn around. And I do not believe that that is fair in any way. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Diane. Let's see, we have a Sarah Harris, right? Sandra Harris. Hi, Sandra.
Good afternoon. My name's Sandy Harris. I've lived in South Placer Fire District for 48 years. I attend their regular board meetings regularly. And this item was on our agenda in February, and the board discussed it, and they held a special meeting in March and sent a letter saying, and they were looking at the map, and it was just make common sense to include that little piece that's in Penryn. There was no discussion about making money on it. It was just a common sense thing to do. And I don't think it was thought through the impact that it would have on Penryn. So I have no problem as a resident of this fire district. I support what Tracy said, Tracy Randall, when he spoke, that there wasn't any intention to make it a financial impact. And so thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other?
No other hands are raised right now.
Last chance for anyone that's joining us online. If you'd like to speak to this item, please raise your hand. Please check one more time.
No hands are raised.
All right. This now going to close the public hearing. And I'd like to recess for 5 minutes to meet up with staff to go over the public comment and the questions asked and get the answers for you to answer. And then we'll come back, we'll open up the hearing, and we'll come back to the commission.
You should ask staff publicly. You shouldn't do it.
No, we got to go through all the questions. We will have them all answered. So right now, there was 25 people that spoke through various questions that were asked. We need to go bring that to staff to say what you're going to answer, have them all answered to make sure we're all ready, have those all prepared. You're going to do right here. It just allows we're not leaving. We're doing it. We're just going to recess so someone's going to lead to the podium and get staff so they could organize their answers and do it. There's nothing going to be behind closed doors here. Okay, you're welcome. So just give us 5 minutes, and we'll reconvene with the hearing at, about 44. Okay? Or 5:44? Thank you. Yeah, well, I have.
Thank you, Chair. As several of the speakers noted, we've been working on this for a number of years. In fact, going back to June of 2022. And I don't want to go back to June 2022 and all of the meetings that we've had. I'm just instead going to quickly summarize up to January of 2025, and then give you a presentation, again, not the whole thing, but from January of 2025 and then what's occurred since then, because this has been on several agendas. And so in the beginning, which is June of 2022, the commission approved a work plan, and it involved doing a service review of fire, EMS, and dispatch services for all of Western Placer County. And what we were looking at was the Western agencies. So that included all the cities, and that included the Placer County Fire Department District. It included all of the fire protection districts that was mentioned earlier, which is Newcastle, Penryn, Placer Hills, and South Placer. But it also included Forest Hill Fire Protection District. So the reason why I'm starting with this slide, again, from January of 2025, is that these are all the original agencies involved. Again, going back to 2022, we did a number of, let me just go through. We looked at, again, EMS, we looked at dispatch, we looked at fire services, and of course related services. And so there was a lot of input from at the very beginning, even before we issued an RFP to look at these services. In fact, originally we were looking only at fire services, and then the chiefs, the Western Fire Chiefs Association said, well, a number of us provide EMS services. And then we also have this, potential, specifically Lincoln, Rockland, and Roseville, to consolidate dispatch systems, not the actual locations, but the systems themselves. And so all along the way, we were bringing our partners along, looking at the RFP, making sure it was what they needed, that it was comprehensive, because at the end of the day, I'm not a firefighter, and neither are members of my board. And so going through that process took some time. And then when we sent out the RFP, again, that was reviewed by all the fire chiefs and whoever they wanted to be wanted to review, we received a number of bids. And we, as a team, reviewed the bids, and AP Trine had the most comprehensive bid. And this was, again, brought to the commission for their approval. So this would have been September of 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And then that's when we began the process. So when AP Triton was hired, they worked closely with every single agency, going back again to all the city fire departments, the county's fire department, as well as the special districts. And then along the way, we kept adding to the scope of the study, because we said, gosh, we didn't include this scope and it's really important. And so there were, I believe, 4 amendments. Amy can correct me, but I believe there were 4 amendments to that scope. And it was not only to include more items, but also increase the time so that we could do a very thorough job. When AP Triton started with the analysis, first it was, provide the districts and the cities and the county were asked to provide all of the information that they have. They were asked to give a very long list. It was financial, governance, your standards of cover, anything related to union contracts and union information, things of that nature, so that they could get a full view. Once they uploaded all of that information and the team had a chance to digest it, then they went out and did site visits. So they actually came to the individual stations, and then also they met with members of their board, the fire district boards, and I know that because they were using my office to meet. So that would have been December of 2023. So again, this is months and months of meeting, of being on at the Western Fire Chiefs Associations, where where they generously invited me to come and give, updates, where they were providing input, et cetera, the fire chiefs, their board members, to our consultants, to our LAFCO staff, et cetera, all along the way. We did receive a draft service review at the end of 2024. It would have been our November meeting. And at that time, we still had Forest Hill included. We still had Placer County Fire. And we still had Auburn, and we still had Colfax at that time. But because there was so much information that was not captured yet in that study, that it was easier for us, because again, we had applications not just with Newcastle and Placer Hills, but also South Placer with ambulance service and a number of other concerns. So we had to move forward. We had the cities of Lincoln, Rockland, and Roseville all have annexations. Again, the fire service, the EMS service, the dispatch service, those are all individual services that is part of a larger group of services that the cities provide, but those are needed as part of their projects as well, not just their service review, but their sphere, and again, annexations. So all of that was considered by the commission at the time and staff, and the recommendation was to move forward with the 3 cities, again, because they had their projects, with South Placer, because they had the project, the ambulance provider. We had Newcastle, and we had Placer Hills. And Penryn, while we did not receive comments whether or not they wanted in or out, again, our consultants were working with them all along the way. And so, and they were notified as every other agency, as well as the public, back in November. So this was, again, considered during the Christmas holiday, and more time was given because of the holiday, and so it wasn't until the middle of January that we came back with the final service review. And so now this brings us to January of 2025. So I'm just gonna, I don't want to give their full presentation, but I wanted to show you what the consultants did with agency input, with interviewing stakeholders, fire chiefs, staff, elected officials, MACs, MAC members, members from the fire safe councils. There was a litany of
people that they interviewed and thanked in the study. So there was a lot of consideration, again, with not just the governance, because that is one of the areas that we are tasked to review, but also with the fiscal analysis as well as the service analysis. Yes, our scope is limited because the state law has us identify these 7 factors, but those factors are, again, disadvantaged unincorporated communities, financial ability to provide services, service capacity, service capability, et cetera, governance, whether or not they are holding Brown Act compliant meetings. So all of those were reviewed, all of the stations individually. We looked at call volumes, we looked at response times, we looked at audits, et cetera, and all of that was provided. In fact, if I recall correctly, that study was a little over 1,000 pages once you include all of the appendices. So we had, at that point, a number of findings and determinations, not just for the service review, but also the spheres. Since we bifurcated the service review with, allowing the cities, again, with the projects to move forward, and allowing these other districts that have current projects to move forward, and holding on, or taking a pause, I believe was my exact word back in November, on Colfax, Auburn, Forest Hill, and Placer County Fire as we gain more information so that we could provide a more comprehensive, more accurate study, because we did not want to lose, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Not all of the information in the study was bad, or even bad. It was just perhaps not comprehensive enough. So there were a number of recommendations, adopting standards, boundary response, CAD to CAD, et cetera. I'm not going to go into detail, but I just wanted to give you, because it sounds like there were many people in the audience who didn't receive that presentation, so I just wanted to give you a very quick overview of all of the considerations that the commission received, as well as the affected agencies, and all along the way for the last 3+ years, so a little over 3 years. And then let's see, I don't remember all of the questions, but if there are other specifics, please let me know. I just wanted to give you a history about how we got to where we are in the process.
Well, we had some questions about consolidated spheres, right? There was some question from the public about having everything included in one large sphere instead of the independent spheres. And I believe that there was, because we didn't adopt the whole MSR, the Western MSR, there's blanks that it becomes problematic. There's holes in it because we'd be missing elements of fire agencies like the county fire or another special district that we did not collect that information or adopt the information given. So any kind of study in that way would be missing elements. So.
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Right. And then when we came to the SOIs of where we sit today, the SOIs are just independent, right? We had what was talked about. We have the continuous. We could have the ones that are de minimis or that are short, smaller, and some that are larger, just to study the service. But that makes that area kind of look at the service, or have that agency kind of look at how growth and other things that lean on the agency that affect the area, how they could be studied in the future. That's currently the suggestion in front of us today. But there's also other things that are happening simultaneously. We have an application currently for what they call reorganization between two of the agencies today, Placer Hills and Newcastle. Right? They have an active 3. You're saying who's the third? For 3 years, right? Yeah, and they had to wait till the MSR, which was adopted in April 9th, and the April 9th now gives the meat in the study that we could run the financial studies and other things of that nature to make a determination to analyze what that new district would look like. Once you have the SOIs, and please correct me if I'm right or wrong, it allows just a determinate boundary of the study area of the MSR. So let's say you have one agency in the SUI say, hey, we want to explore maybe merging or maybe annexing. Those boundaries could be merged together. They could, it's already been studied within the SOI. There's determinations of weaknesses and strengths that were already kind of covered in that sphere, in that study area. Doesn't mean it's the service boundary. The service boundary is what affects you financially. So, and that is what I think is one of the things we're hearing here today about the service boundaries, how that could affect the service areas in the future, and people like the service boundaries, and how that could possibly lead to unwanted annexations, conflict, and other things. And now I'm going to opinionate. So I think that's where we're at. I'm trying to think of any other kind of questions. A lot of the questions serviced around that, serviced around public hearings. Insurance and other things that are not studied.
Yes, with this, I do remember now.
Right.
The station's closing, no, we do not have that ability. That lies solely with the agency providing the service. We do not, we don't have anything to do with that. And then the other, with the insurance, we do not. Other than we studied it, the ISO ratings are included in the study. And by studied it, I mean, we included the information that is publicly available, the ISO ratings, just so it's part of our study.
And the other thing that just include in there is LAFCO is not a land use agency. We study services. I know that a lot of comments up here about we're all being impacted by growth or by different land uses. That is not what LAFCO studies. It studies the efficiency of services that you receive, and that the services are being provided in an equitable, efficient manner. So, right.
So I just want to clarify that we have the authority to expand, to do an annexation of the city boundaries. So Granite Bay, I was hearing a lot about the Hope Project, and the reason why we were confused is that that's in the unincorporated area, and there is no annexation, so that does not go to LAFCO. And again, because that's unincorporated, and so we do not, as Chair Alpine noted, we do not have land use authority.
But that impacts.
I have one more question.
Yes.
I think there was another member of the public who asked for clarification on who votes. Can you clarify that? Is it the citizens, I think Cheryl asked this, citizens of both districts vote?
Yes, so during the protest hearing, yes, both citizens, or not citizens, I'm sorry, it's registered voters and landowners. So yes, it is not, the LAFCO is not the ultimate authority. As I mentioned, it does go to a protest proceeding, and then, and that's a way to submit your ballot, it's a vote, and if so if I'll go into the math, but if less than 25% of the registered voters or landowners submit a protest, then the annexation moves through. If between 25% and under 50% submit a protest, it goes to a special election. So there's another election that is run by the registrar of voters. And of course, if you have 50% or greater submit a protest, the project terminates. So it is ultimately, the decision lies with the registered voters and the landowners.
Of both potential?
Yes, of any of the affected agencies, whether it's a small portion or the entire district. It is the affected registered voters within those boundaries, not the sphere, within the boundaries of both or all of the areas. So small, large, et cetera, everything that encompasses that boundary.
And then I had one more question that early on in the meeting, I called your attention to that paragraph on Placer Hills where it's the second to the last sentence of the second paragraph. Should the reorganization move forward and be approved, LAFCO could then change the SOI. So I guess my question is, we don't have to do the SOI for their application to continue to move forward.
No, the reason why the Placer Hills and Newcastle application remains incomplete, unlike our other two fire districts, is there is no resolution from the County Board of Supervisors. And so I cannot bring it to, I'm not allowed by law, the executive officer cannot issue a certificate of filing, and without that certificate of filing, I cannot issue the public hearing. And so, again, that is totally, completely separate from the sphere. And that's why that sentence is there.
Okay, and so have you, and I'm looking at Chief here because I know he knows this better than I, has that been requested of us?
Yes.
Okay.
And
okay.
in fact, there's a letter under correspondence from the county addressing that.
Okay, okay. So
Well, I just wanna
those
make
are my
sure-
only
questions. I definitely have other comments.
Chair Alpine, could I ask a question? Sorry, over here.
Yeah,
Right
I just wanted to make sure before we, because we're melting into the discussion part, I just want to make sure that all the questions of the public comment at this point have been addressed, unless one that we didn't catch.
That is my
Okay,
question.
right, okay, Commissioner Landis.
I know, I cannot remember the first woman who spoke on behalf of Penryn Fire, but.
Cheryl.
Yes, thank you. But her, along with obviously many others, had concerns around communication and transparency and being reached out to. I appreciate the history on the MSR side of really understanding how we got to where we are, but on the SOI side, was there outreach to Penryn when it comes to that change for the SOI ahead of time, or were they just learning of, because it sounds like from everyone who was speaking in public comment that they were not aware at all that there's this little piece was part of the SOI change.
Right, there was a number of recommendations, and I think it was in the November meeting. But there was a number of options to consider, some that are no longer viable just because we had to that's the wrong word. We had to pause because, again, we are required to do these studies. So, those options were identified, including as one of the South Placer Commissioner Randall, or Director Randall, I apologize. Those were part of the studies. The fact that it was not, that the Loomis, the town of Loomis, that they have two fire agencies, that the city of Rockland provides services to the areas within their boundaries, and there was this overlap of the Placer, or sorry, for South Placer and Rockland, and then the Loomis, Penryn. So those were all in the study, which unfortunately isn't here today. But I don't remember if you recall, but there was like the green and purple and yellow maps. So I know it was in there, but it was part of the presentation. Those were identified in the study.
Can I
So I think my concern is very reputable people who I would respect in the community seem to be very. They seem to be in agreement that they didn't receive any information about this piece, about that little change in the SOI. And so that's really what I'm trying to drill down to is before this meeting, was there any notification to the fire district and the fire chief on that change?
Yes, because all along the ways, we had been looking at options and a number of options. And usually we do a service review and a sphere update at the same time. With the bifurcation, we took multiple meetings, and all along the way, all of the different alternatives were looked at. And don't forget that you have very definite policies that the commission has adopted, and so all of these recommendations are consistent with your policies, your written policies, with the zero sphere, with the coterminous sphere, with a sphere reduction. All of that, the staff recommendations, yes, while the consultants had a number of recommendations, staff's recommendation is consistent with your policy because that is your direction to staff. We were notifying along the way. This has been 3 years.
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Oh, all right. Okay, so we did, so according to our Executive Officer McIntyre, according to our policies, were the notifications in line or with what we have in the policy. Okay, so that doesn't mean that we should not change up. We do have, this is kind of side, we do have a policy meeting coming up at the end of the month. We will review these things, but as where we sit today, we are not in violation of our.
No, and to be fair to the commission's policy goes above and beyond state law already. And so, for example, just with the service review, the service review, we always have it as a public hearing item. It is not necessarily. So yes, we followed your policy, we followed state law, but I also would like to make a note that the existing policy already goes above and beyond. Now, of course, there's always opportunities for improvement, but I just want to make that note for the record.
And finally, the one that was not asked, I think it was the second to the last answer, is just because we have a motion in front of us, resolution does not mean that the commission cannot alter that resolution.
Yes, exactly.
Correct? Okay. With that, I think that unless if the commissioner identifies another question that was asked by the public that was not.
Chair.
Please.
Vicky Hall had asked a question if the SOI would help, or not help, but lose services. Would it, if it happened, would it lose services? That was one of the questions that was asked. I think another ask out there, but I don't think it was really addressed, is that I think it needs to be noted that the SOI has no effect on the boundaries of the fire districts, and I think that there's a confusion in that. Yes. I think that needs to be noted as well, is that the SOI has no effect on your fire boundaries that are happening out there. And again, if you want to answer the question that Vicky Hall asked, would the SOI affect losing services, which I don't think it would. So those are the only questions I have written down here that I checked off, because they're all right here that you guys talked about. I feel like I should learn shorthand, but
I should write better ones.
So anyways, those are the only things that I thought should still be addressed.
Yes, 100%. The service, the boundary does not change. The sphere does not affect the services that you're currently providing. There's, again, this whole other process that is very long that involves multiple hearings, public hearings, and votes from the members, or the registered voters, as well as the landowners. So, yes, you're 100% correct.
Thank you.
Great. With that, is there another question?
No, I just wanted to add on that that made me kind of jog my memory, and I was just thinking during the break that as far as services being provided, regardless of the SOI, our city of Lincoln had 3 really substantial fires over the last month. And I have to say that we're eternally grateful for our first responders and our fire departments, that we, regardless of our SOI, I think we had every single fire department in our entire region responding, either at one or multiple or all together. I think everybody was there. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that this has nothing to do with the services. I think this is kind of 2 separate things.
All right, with that, I think, any other commissioner notice, any other public question? Now, I'm going to return this to the this part of the public hearing is up for the commission to discuss and take action on the item before us.
I would like to, I was interested in moving forward with the idea of doing the global sphere. But I think what I heard you say is the MSR that we adopted in April does not include Auburn, and it does not include portions that are Placer County Fire. So we wouldn't have the documentation in order to support moving forward with a global?
Yes.
It would be absent
All right.
in the study.
Again, we have to go back to the 3 steps, the service review, and it is on hold. There is a pause, and there is a desire from not just the commission, also staff, and also the affected agencies to move forward, because they too want their spheres. They too want, the recognition that they provide all of these very critical and important services. And so that was just pause. But yes, Commissioner Rohan, the short answer is we have significant portions of the Western study, because just looking at this very long list here, a number of those agencies and districts are still on step 1.
So am I then correct in my understanding that we could take no action on this item and it would still allow Placer Hills and Newcastle to move forward? It would create a no harm situation for Penryn because nothing is moving?
Well,
If
I'd ask the executive director. I'm not sure I'd like to answer
But if
everything,
I'm
but I don't
correct
think
about
it's my
that,
role.
I would like to, only to try to stimulate more conversation amongst us, I would lay that out as a motion.
So just to be clear, if you're waiting for the reorganization of Placer Hills and Newcastle until you have a complete application, you do not have a timeline. Again, you are required, the state law says you shall establish and adopt a sphere every 5 years. And so with the letter from the county in the later part of your packet, there is no resolution coming. Again, you shall establish a sphere. This was required in the 70s. It is 2025, and we do not have an established sphere for these agencies.
Well, we haven't had one since then.
I know, but exactly, and that's a fair point. But we did, many, many hearings. We adopted our strategic plan that we will be complying with the law as best as we can and as quickly as we can, which is why we've been marching along this path of reviewing not just our cities, but also our special districts. Just to remind everyone, we have 37 independent special districts. We have 6 dependent districts that we haven't even looked at. We have 6 cities. And so, again, the commission's direction and all of your policies, your strategic plan is to comply with state law. And the state law is you will conduct a service review, you will adopt a sphere. And so if you are waiting until there's a reorganization before you, which we do not have control over, because we are not the agency responsible for issuing that resolution, it may never come to pass.
Okay.
Michelle, can I clarify something? I'm reading the letter, and I have not been briefed on this by the county, but the letter is very clear that we look forward to the commission's future consideration of this proposed project. That's the concluding sentence. So I think there's a misunderstanding. I don't think the board has taken an action of any kind to say we're standing in the way of this or even
No.
considered it. So I understand that this letter is about a tax share agreement and whether there should be changes in the tax share between the county and any or all of the fire districts. So,
Thank you,
yeah.
Commissioner. Absolutely. The key word that you said there is letter. It is a letter. So what I'm looking for to move forward is a resolution. And so, yes, 100%, the Board of Supervisors has not taken action. Once you have a resolution that you have acted on and that you give to LAFCO, then yes. So this.
I understand.
Oh,
I had
okay.
just asked earlier, did you ask us, the Board
Oh,
of Supervisors, for a resolution? And has it been denied? You said yes, and I thought you said yes, and it was in the letter, but we didn't deny a resolution.
I am so sorry. I was answering yes, we asked. We're required by state law, Rev and Tax
Okay.
Code 99. We were not denied. Again, what is before you, page 177, is the latest communication from the county, and 100% still supporting, but the key word is a letter instead of a resolution, and so I just need that resolution.
Okay, well, great to know, and we'll make sure we clarify. So, I'm sorry, Susan.
No, absolutely,
Chair
please.
Alpine?
Your comments are very helpful. I just want to know, again, do I have a viable option on the table for consideration?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Stephanie has a
Then
question.
I'd love to hear some discussion from other commissioners.
I have a question. Well, we're obviously not voting members, and I'm trying very hard to say this without leading you guys, because obviously I'm kind of going off of you. What can be done tonight to accommodate the people that are in the audience that showed up here, spent their time? Are you guys going to, am I confirming that you're going to add that onto resolution, or are you still talking about, was it Auburn and Forest Hill, you're talking about it hasn't come to supervisors? All I'm saying is we need to do something tonight.
Commissioner Youngblood, what's before us tonight is to approve 4 SOIs.
Right, but what I'm trying to say.
4 SOIs.
But what I'm trying to say is, in terms of the situation with Penryn and Newcastle, what can we do
could
tonight?
adjust that to any which way we like to, and that was asked. So I believe what's in front of us tonight, or is just proposed right here, was,
Oh, Amy, can you go back to the other presentation? I apologize. I'm not able to.
wait, got a motion in play, and one of the motions in play that was asked was to consider the Placer Hills and Newcastle SOI and possibly defer or hold the Penryn and South Placer until another meeting or another date to reconsider or to consider.
As long as that creates no issues in the future for Placer Hills and Newcastle to merge, combine, annex, whatever the word is.
Chair, I have
Yes,
a
go
question.
ahead.
Considering this has been brought to us as one item, I would consider talking to council before we start splitting this up. If anything, to make it go forward or not go forward, my recommendation, I know we already have on the table, but would be to postpone this whole thing until we have very clarification, because I've spoken with both chiefs over the weekend, because I've got called on Saturday, with this problem that happened in Newcastle, and speaking with Chief Gal, that I think that if he was kind of in agreement with me, along with Chief Dewar, that we probably should postpone this until we have very clarification of where we're going with our sphere, because right now it doesn't affect our boundaries, the SOI. Kind of going on what Suzanne's talking about is that I think I'm not sure if we could split it up. That's for legal. I know we can't do it on some of our stuff that comes to the board, so I'm kind of thinking that maybe the same thing is applicable here. So if that is the case, without getting into any legal problems, that my recommendation, kind of with yours, is probably just to postpone this whole thing until we have very clarification on what's going on. But we could still, I would imagine, look, they're still going to provide fire service, kind of like what Kirkland said, is that, hey, everybody's going to come together if there's a fire. It doesn't matter who it is, right?
I appreciate your suggestion and don't have a problem with it. The reason that I'm proposing what I'm proposing is that I'm thinking that it's moving the ball forward.
Yes.
And that has great advantage. And I don't think that there would be great challenge with having the motion reflect that we're moving forward only with the sphere of influence as it relates to Placer Hills and Newcastle.
Hold on for 1 second. I believe our counsel, Michael, would like to hear from him on these two matters.
Good.
One, I believe, was from Commissioner DiMattei about whether we could split the motion that's the resolution in front of us or alter it. And the second would be whether it would hold if there's any, would it be holding up, or would it be problematic if we did bifurcate or split the motion, the resolution into two parts, only passing part of it?
Yeah, Chair, first I want to make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I had problems earlier today. The commission may break up the spheres of influence. So the commission today may consider one of the four, two of the four, three of the four, all four of the four, or none of the four. So that falls, to the commission's discretion with respect to that, because these are discrete items. And the record, even though you have a single staff report, addresses each fire protection district discreetly. Obviously, a resolution would have to be revised and most likely brought back at your next meeting to address that, but your commission can do that. And so I think that answers the second question as well. You could defer two of the four, for instance, and act on two of the four today, or any combination thereof.
Yeah, that answers my question. So kind of goes along with hers. If we wanted, so clarity, if we want to just vote on Placer Hills and Newcastle, we can, and we can postpone the other ones. And so I guess if there's that motion on that.
Mine would be the motion, and if yours is the second, unless somebody else.
I thought.
Is there a motion on the floor?
You
Well,
meant Placer Hills and South Placer?
No.
Placer Hills and.
I don't have a problem.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I don't have a problem seconding it, and if we can, I will second that motion. Because I want to move us forward. But now for discussion, would you like to bring something else up on this?
No.
Okay.
I was just going to say, then we can discuss it once it was seconded.
It's seconded now, so now we can discuss it.
I didn't hear any debate. I think it's right in line with what we've been talking about for several years. And I'm sorry for, the issues that weren't communicated and whether they were heard or not heard on the SOI with Penryn and South Placer. That's going to take more time and deserves more time. But these other two, we didn't hear anybody in disagreement. It was well noticed. It's been well discussed. These two districts are looking at this consolidation, and so I'm in support of the motion.
I agree. I'm in support.
Yeah, I feel the same way as Commissioner Gustafson.
I don't know. I'm just going to go down now.
Go ahead, that's fine. I can support the motion, but I do have some comments because while I appreciated a data-driven approach, and of course we're never going to say let's not comply with state law. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But there are issues when we hear from board members, retired firefighters, community members, this kind of response that somebody made and I'm sorry he left, but he made a comment, put the cookies on the bottom shelf. Yeah. And I wrote it down. I'm going to needlepoint it because the bottom line of that is keep it simple, right? Make it so that everybody understands and has an opportunity to comment on something. And clearly, somehow that got missed. And what we kept hearing were words like, kind of got blindsided, questioning about the process, questioning the timing. We didn't know about it in time. I think those are critical things that I know in my own household, just because I say something doesn't mean anybody heard it. And I think that's kind of what maybe happened is we say things and we say things and we say things, but if we don't say them clearly enough and give people an opportunity. And then I'm just going to close with some of the best conversations are in the ladies' room. And I was listening to some people say, you know, do people already have their minds made up? Does any of this make any sense? Does it matter? And I have to say it matters a lot. That's why we deliberate after public comment and not before. Because I think what came out of the conversation was the idea of doing a global SOI, which I could also have supported, but I'm happy to bifurcate it a little bit and do it a little bit differently. But I just have to say that just because we think we say something doesn't mean it got heard properly, and maybe that's a flaw on our side. So thank you for bringing that up.
Do you want me to say something? I was just nodding in agreement. Go Judy, I'm behind you 100%. I loved everything you said.
Commissioner Youngblood, I think we were going your direction.
That was classy, not to quote Anchorman, but good job.
It's hard to be classy and quote the ladies' room conversation.
So this is my comment on the whole thing. This has been in process for not just only 4 years, but I think all the special districts and fire districts have been struggling this since the late 2000s. I've serving on LAFCO in 2008, 10. We were still struggling with different studies. There was studies in 2016, 2017. Penryn had the big problem at that time and was able to come up with Measure A and do things in there. It's a constant thing that we're all, that the fire services and this service is constantly debating and looking at. And we're always trying to figure out how to do it the best we can and keeping it at the most affordable way we could do it. And in the sake of seeing something as a miscommunication, as big or as small as an SOI is, to pull apart the conversations that are happening and people working together as districts to solve or come up with solutions to these problems is not worth it. I think in the way that we look, if there's a misunderstanding and some of the stuff is not there, we could have time to get us there about the definitions and the process. But the most important thing is, as communities and as electeds and as professional staff, as our fire chiefs and directors all meet and have a free flow and good conversation and positive conversation on how to address these issues for our communities. I think we all have learned today with this amount of people here that we could all do better in how we communicate. And I'm sure we'll be taking that as a policy into our policy discussion. We are doing a massive amount of work, LAFCO, with MSRs. There's something of, we're on a pace of almost 9 annually just to keep up, and that's not even keeping with annexations or other type things that are happening here. And we're making tweaks to our process to make sure, to try to capture public outreach and things where they don't come to this kind of meeting head. We'd like to catch this earlier. So if all your comments were welcomed, they were appreciated, and we will look to make things better and try to refine our process and our outreach processes. But I think what is before us as a motion that's before us today, I think gets us to a place where things are moving forward, and it does not, and it keeps the bridges intact for people to keep conversations positive and trying to find solutions. So because that's what this commission is here to do. So with that, can I please have?
I'm sorry, I have a question on the
Yes.
motion, if I may. The original staff recommendation was this action is subject to a 30-day reconsideration period. Would that carry through to the new motion?
That's by state law.
That's by
Correct.
state law.
Thank you.
With that, then, can I have a roll call vote?
Chair Alpine, if I may first?
Yes?
Just to clarify what the practical effect of the motion would be if approved, it would be to really approve the proposed resolution, but striking from the proposed resolution the references to Placer Hills and,
Penryn.
keeping Placer Hills and Newcastle and striking the other two fire districts from the resolution.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Amy, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner DiMattei.
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund.
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman.
Yes.
Commissioner Gustafson.
Yes.
Commissioner Lohman.
Yes.
Commissioner Rohan.
Yes.
And Chair Alpine.
Yes.
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. All right, now that
Josh,
brings.
well done.
Thank Yeah, well, good job, guys. All right. We still got the big one here. That moves us on to our next item, LAFCO business. Item 8, Alpha 8A, fiscal study to evaluate consolidation options for South Placer Fire Protection District, Newcastle Fire Protection District, and Penryn Fire Protection District. Can I please have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. Just before I turn it over to Amanda, who will provide the presentation, I'm going to give the how we got to where we're at before, as opposed to like what we did last time, where I gave it, after or during. Okay, so with the Placer Hills and the consolidation with Newcastle, we look at several factors. Do they have the capacity, the capability to provide services? Do they have the financial ability? When the commission takes action, what are the financial effects, the service effects? Just to boil it down to those two ideas. Are we negatively affecting services? Are we creating a more positive situation? The same thing with financial services. Are we negatively affecting the agencies, or are we helping the agencies? Because the last thing you want is, in your attempt to try and help two or one struggling district, or even just two districts who want to, realize some savings and realize opportunities for greater revenues. You don't want to create a situation where you're making things worse. So part of that is that we're looking at the fiscal impact. Again, the service review, we already have the digging into the fiscal impact, not just their, again, earlier I mentioned that we looked at their audits, we looked at their budgets, but this is on a line-by-line item, which is why you have the study that, again, this is the second time you've received the study, a fiscal analysis of what does it look like when we consolidate Placer Hills with Newcastle. And so what the study showed us is that left alone, Placer Hills is fine on their own. And no surprise, if left alone, Newcastle is not sustainable. Their current model, they'll have to make changes, reducing costs, increasing revenue, again, through a Prop 218 process or some other process. But if nothing happens, they will run out of cash within the 5-year time span of the service review. Again, that was the purpose of staff's recommendation for a zero sphere in line with your policy. And so you have received this study. As you've heard from the board members, they will amend their application, and perhaps with the amendment, it will change the financial outcome. But the way that it has been submitted now, again, it's been 3 years, combining the two districts, you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. You are taking money from the Placer Hills to offset the loss from Newcastle. And while perhaps that would be something that is agreeable to the voters, again, I am making recommendations based on your policy, which is we are not going to hurt a district so much that they will, have losses, et cetera, where we are ourselves are making things worse. And again, the fiscal analysis that is over 100 pages shows us that we will make things worse on Placer Hills if we have them take on, I'm sorry to say, but it is a financial burden of Newcastle, and that is not my opinion. That is the what the fiscal study from experts stated. So with that in mind, we did receive, again, not just this letter, but also the letter from South Placer early on in January when we had a more holistic view of the Western Placer County, because, this was before all of the bifurcations, where this was, this scenario was already on being considered, being talked about, and again, we received a letter that clearly says this is an option that they would like us to review. Again, they're not saying this is the plan. They don't know it will pencil out. That's what they're looking for, the commission for is, can we look at a budget line item, looking at the true cost, looking at projections, similar to what we've already done, very similar to Newcastle and Placer Hills, and can they provide us an alternative and a solution that makes financial sense? Because what we have now before you, what we've received, yes, it's a solution, but does it make financial sense? And again, not my opinion, what's in the study is no, it does not. So with that, I will turn it over to Amanda to bring us up to date of where we are now.
Before you,
Hold on.
Look at the agenda item.
Oh.
Wait. Hold. Please, hold. We're still at the receiving the report.
I had a question. We've heard a lot of public testimony tonight, Michelle. I don't deny some of the things you just said, but the action item is authorizing a contract in which I don't know that both districts are interested in, or one district has even been made aware of previously. Personally, as one commissioner, I'd like the two districts to talk to each other, meaning specifically Penryn and South Placer, before we move on a contract. I know it's not necessary, but I think it's good public process. And we've heard, I don't want to keep everybody here for another 2 hours to hear the same comments again. So as one commissioner, I would like to see if we could move this to the next agenda.
Thank you. I was just giving a background, and then Amanda's giving the actual presentation for 8A. I was trying to avoid what happened last time.
All right, so since it's still agendized, we didn't pull it. We still could receive a report.
But I could make a motion to
table it, but we still have to take public comment on it, I believe. Michael, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So with that, let's just continue with the staff report and then go. So Amanda?
Okay, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. This is item 8A for the Commission to consider authorizing a municipal authorize Ridgeline Municipal Strategies to conduct a fiscal study to evaluate financial feasibility of these three consolidation options: the annexation of Newcastle Fire Protection District into South Placer FPD, the annexation of Penryn FPD into South Placer FPD, and the annexation of Newcastle and Penryn into South Placer. So as we've discussed, Ridgeline completed a financial analysis of the Placer Hill Newcastle consolidation that you received in June. Separately, at the end of July, we received a letter from South Placer requesting that your commission consider expanding this fiscal review to include additional consolidation options. So this proposal aligns with LAFCO's statutory mandate to promote efficient and logical service boundaries and to explore alternative governance structures, and you can see the code numbers listed there. The request also echoes recommendations from the fire study that we've discussed already, which proposed multiple potential consolidation options involving these agencies. The recommended study estimated to cost about $37,000, and because the study would benefit the entire western Placer County region, staff believe it's appropriate for LAFCO to cover the cost of this study. So this item is recommending that the commission enter into agreement with Ridgeline Municipal Strategies to conduct a supplemental regional fiscal and operational analysis evaluating the feasibility of these 3 reorganization options. Direct that this supplemental study include consideration of South Placer's ability to provide both fire and emergency transportation services as a factor in the regional analysis, and approve the funding estimate seen here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the staff report?
Yes.
Yes.
There isn't any issue at all if we were to decide to move this to another agenda, so that there could be discussion between the parties?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
But I just believe, before we take a motion, if there's no other question, I'm going to open it up for public comment for this item. Any member of the public, please line up. Yeah, that's right.
I appreciate Commissioner Gustafson, your words, so I'll be very, very quick. Just for clarity, the South Placer initiated a working group of directors from 5 special districts: South Placer, Newcastle, Penryn, Placer Hills, and Forest Hill. Those meetings have been going on since February, with no mention from South Placer that they were going to submit this request to LAFCO that came in July, just a couple of weeks ago, not in January, this request. The MSR process, which I appreciate your review of the process, and I totally agree with the enormous amount of input that was provided during that process. During LAFCO action, prior to the approval of the final MSR, all of the sections regarding potential considerations for consolidation were removed at LAFCO's request. So all of that was taken out under the understanding, which we agree with, that consolidation requires more time. It wasn't necessary for the MSR. So there was talk about it. All of that was removed from the final. So to me, that's now out of the process. It was removed from the approved MSR. For LAFCO to be initiating and paying for a study that is narrow in scope to financials just doesn't make sense. Consolidation is more than financials. Consolidation is service. And to do that without all parties being in agreement that that should happen just doesn't make sense. And the timing doesn't make sense. There is a pending application that's in process by LAFCO, and to spend $37,000 on a study that basically would discount what that application is, what's the rush to run to a financial study? And for LAFCO to pay for that study, saying it benefits all of Western County, Western Placer County, while they required Placer Hills and Newcastle to pay for a new independent financial study from this same company, again, isn't consistent and isn't fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Dennis Bergstrom, Penryn resident, stakeholder. I look at this as, okay, you're doing your background, or at least it's proposed to do some background because Newcastle's in trouble. And, you know, I look at it, we're in the country. You know, we're neighborly. Nothing about this from South Placer putting this out there is neighborly. I was on the board, Penryn board, when we were in discussion with South Placer the last time. So I was in those meetings. I was in the meetings with Bickford about trying to get 2 stations under Penryn. So I have some background with this. Since then, we have not had any discussions, as far as I'm aware, to go ahead and move forward with any consolidation, although I do believe in the future it is necessary to have the efficiencies and all the services. So I'm not saying it's not out there, but you gotta understand, Penryn Fire is like the soul of our community. And we're truly a community. We're not a township, but we do have a community. And they've been here for 100 years. And it's been from bootstraps to professional services now. So to take it on somebody else's authority without us actually doing the due diligence of the citizens and the appointed and the people in Penryn board to make decisions for us, that we've appointed them to do that, elected them to do that, to take us out of that and use this as a roadmap is just unheard of. It's just, it should not be used. It shouldn't be spending money on it. And quite honestly, I never thought I'd say this, but we're more connected culturally in community with Placer Hills now. And I think that might be something that we could get behind rather than South Placer, because I just think they went around it too much, and this just, their intentions are not pure, and I think it's just about money. So, thanks so much.
Brian Myers back again. I read through the entire scope of work that the consultants have as part of your agenda item, and you'll notice if you really read it, there is not any consultation with Penryn Fire in that scope of work. It's all done through South Placer. All of the consultation, all of the study is done through South Placer. Nowhere in there does it say that they'll do community meetings with Penryn, they'll do any discussions with the Penryn Fire Board, Fire Chief, anything like that. This is a grab by South Placer, and I respect South Placer. You know, they have their agenda, they have their items, but this is not a Penryn request. If this was requested by Penryn, you should approve it. It is not requested. It is opposed by Penryn, opposed by our fire district and by our residents. So why are we being stuck with a $37,000 bill to LAFCO to be included in a study we don't want to be in? They didn't want us when we were broke. Now we're not broke. Now they want us. That's just wrong. Just wrong. See through what South Placer is doing here. You know, we don't want to consolidate. We will oppose that. I led the Measure A campaign, as I told you earlier. What I will do if there's a consolidation, and if South Placer does what they say they're going to do in shutting down the Penryn station, they put that in writing to us, I will lead a measure to repeal Measure A and Measure C that are our tax base so that our people aren't paying for a station we no longer have. You know, it's just wrong that South Placer is doing this. It would be wrong if you all approve a study that Penryn is not requesting. Newcastle can decide their fate. They can tell you whether they want to be absorbed and have this study done. But we are asking, in fact, politely demanding that you delete Penryn out of this study. Thank you.
So Jim Heisterkamp, Chair, Newcastle Fire Protection Board. So it's kind of interesting how this came up relative to this study that South Placer is asking for, because when we did our study, we readily admit that the financials are not solid. And naive as we were, not understanding the process, we have 5 different assessments between our 2 districts. And essentially, we can mix and match to maximize cash flow and not burden our citizens. So we do have additional updates to the ridgeline to update the financials, which are, we did that last week. We met with both boards and we've agreed on the numbers. They should be positive cash flow. Our net will be positive cash flow every year. We'll have no red. And it'll be a solid financial proposition for everyone. So that's coming. So there should be no hindrance in a future review by the commission. All right. Mentioning that, not to mention the fact that Newcastle and Placer Hills had to pay for our review. It seems ironic that we would pay for a review by South Placer. If we did, then I would say, let's add Placer Hills as well and make everybody a part of it. But it just doesn't, in my mind, doesn't make sense to spend the money at this particular point and throw a wrench in the works of what we're working on and open up the opportunity for another application to show up and delay the process, right? Because that will delay this process and we want to get it complete. So thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Patty Knifer. Thanks for spending your evening with us, as Penrynites mostly. And thanks for hearing us. I heard how important it is not to have one fire district financially be a detriment to another fire district. Other decisions are based on that. It's a big, big decision to make. Each one of these is taking a fiscally responsible, whole fire district and then putting it under a district that's not fiscally whole. I mean, you already see that. You don't need to pay $38,000 to see that there's going to be an inequity in who is financially viable and who is not. I'll make this really short. We have 3 supervisors here that can move forward, which I love hearing that that's going to happen, with a recommendation to do a consolidation that the districts want and that looks like it's fiscally responsible. So if that's the only thing that comes out of today, I mean, you got a high five. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Aaron Hardesty again, Penryn resident, 30 years. In 1993, we all voted for Prop 172. It's a half-cent sales tax that pays for fire service. Because we're an unincorporated area, our fire boards do not get that money. If you want to address something and make these solvent, give us the money that we're paying out of taxes to pay for fire, have it go to fire. The sheriff, God bless him, I want them to be there, and I want some ears on this side to hear this, but the Placer County Board of Supervisors, LAFCO, have the power to give us this money and fund these districts that do a lot with a little, instead of merging us to bigger districts that do a little with a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Nicole Paskey again. Thank you guys for your time. I'd like to express my personal surprise and disagreement regarding the financial feasibility study on tonight's agenda that involves the districts that, again, were given no notice of this request, no chance to provide input, and also completely removes Placer Hills Fire Protection District from this analysis. I'm taken aback that LAFCO has initiated a study that does not include all impacted districts, as this does not align with past practices and decisions with the recent approval of the Municipal Services Review. The LAFCO removed the entire section, just echoing what Cheryl said, removed the section discussing possible consolidation alternatives for districts within the county during one of its past public meetings, citing that it would be more appropriate to be looked at as a separate issue that requires more work to accomplish, which we all agreed on. And can support. Furthermore, so I don't mean to laugh, for LAFCO to recommend paying for this study is inconsistent with the fact LAFCO did not pay for the recent independent financial review that it required from Placer Hills for the Placer Hills and Newcastle consolidation. We do not support this initiation of the fiscal study at this time, as recommended to the commission by LAFCO staff. We do look forward to continuing our 2022 application. And just a couple new notes from my original notes. The mentioning of the justification for the funding of this analysis and the fact that it benefits Western Placer County, but again, to highlight, you have completely removed Placer Hills from this. So maybe it would be a different discussion if all districts were involved. But that's not the case. So I'm missing and I disagree with that justification. So I personally urge you not to push this to another meeting, but to oppose this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam Asai again from Penryn. And I just want to probably restate what's already been stated, but I totally agree that communication needs to happen between these entities. I think historically and presently they work really well as a team, so why not let that keep happening before you study, what's going to happen. Let the people do what they do best, organize themselves among each other. The other thing that I have a big problem with is that Penryn does love their fire department, and we back it up with our pocketbooks. We think it's really important that our firefighters have health benefits. We think it's really important that our firefighters have retirement. You know, they serve us, and they serve us really well, and we want to compensate them. And why should you annex us into districts that don't have those same values and don't back up the care of their firefighters, their first responders? We don't want to support other people that aren't willing to support themselves. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Hi, friends. Spencer, Newcastle, still. I'd just like to speak out. I briefly touched on it before against this evaluation of $37,000 for the consolidation options. As I keep stating, and I will continue to state, things that defer progress or more studies of analysis of different studies that have already been completed really affect, again, progress and moving forward. And so I think LAFCO has already submitted their findings, and we've been through this many times, and there's been many meetings regarding this, and I just feel like we're taking 2 steps backwards and maybe a half step forward. So I would really urge you to consider to not fund this study, being that there already is a consolidation that is in play here. So now that we're introducing a completely different consolidation at this time, I don't think is necessarily the best idea. I think, again, we need to pause and reflect on the work people have done behind the scenes and really give them credit, including yourselves, by the way. And again, work on things that are in front of you. You've heard from the public about how they feel. I also know, again, as I'd mentioned, that Ms. McIntyre has resigned and is moving on. And it does state that the executive officer would be leading this analysis. And so I don't know if an alternate would take that or if there is someone in mind that would be heading that up. But with her resignation and moving on to Cal LAFCO into a different position, I think you should also consider that when you analyze and decide on moving forward with a $37,000 study. Again, who is the executive chair and who would be managing that? So thank you.
Hi, Cheryl Burkema. I don't think this project, this part at least, has been socialized. I think people would be horrified if they knew that all of the fire districts potentially are in movement and nobody really knows what's going on. I truly believe that the people in this room have worked together. A lot of us know each other and we got the word out, but I don't think in general that that's the case. I like what the gentleman said about taking the tax the ballot measure and making it more, you're already getting the money, give it to the people that can actually manage and spend it. And I did want to bring up, there was a project in West Placer, and I'm sure Cindy Gustafson remembers this because one of the supervisors called me ignorant for bringing it up. There was an EIR, and one of the fire districts said, we don't think we can support this. And the supervisor said, you're ignorant, you don't understand how things work. And I thought, that project was approved. And the fire department said that they couldn't support it. When was the last time you heard a fire department, and I've asked our chief, say we will not serve something? Projects go through, go through, go through. We build, and that's why we're in the situation we're in today. Why do fire departments not say that? Because they're politically have handcuffs on. I don't know why, you know, what the politics are, but they don't stand up and say, we can't do this. And so if that continues and they don't have a little bit of autonomy to spend tax dollars and do the right thing, I don't think we should even be discussing this now. It's like enough homework has not been done, and I think that it is a much broader scope problem. I wish people would say, we can't do this. Hopeway, they can't do that. They cannot. They don't even have the fire equipment, so thank you.
Good evening. JP Miller, same guys before. I want to thank you, first of all, for your last vote and motion. Thank you very much for reading the room and listening to constituents. It is greatly appreciated. I want to underscore what everybody else just said. Based on your last vote, based on where you are, right now there's no point in approving $37,000 plus for a study, for another company to study something that will get studied and studied. So please, I ask you to at least realign that. With that, Ms. McIntyre, by God, you're good. In a different life, in a different uniform, I would have given anything to have you working for me. You understand the process, and I get it. But now for you as the board and for you as supervisors, this is a time for you to step up and be the leaders. You've got to issue your commander's guidance. You've got to have some imagination. And I really hope, given the outcome of this meeting, that we're on the upward trend now to doing the right thing overall to represent the citizens and to figure out how we get our county in compliance, but with a methodology that listens to us and gets it done in an optimal level as opposed to something that seems like it's being steamrollered. Thank you very much.
Hello again. Randall Knifer. And on my time with the Penryn Fire District Board, the chief will remember this, the county had a study where they brought in all the different fire districts for consideration of consolidation. They spent a lot more than $37,000. It went over several months. They brought us all into a large room. It accomplished nothing. It was just a big waste of time and money. And you know, I don't want to rehash, you know, what the county does or LAFCO does or anything like that. But you know, as everybody in this room said, do we really need to do this? And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Chief Dewar.
Chair Alpine, staff, Mark Dewar, South Placer Fire Chief. First of all, thank you all for everything you do for us and for the community. Really appreciate it. I'd like to start out with the letter I sent saying, hey, we want to extend our sphere for the town of Loomis. It was never our intention to make a money grab. You heard it from Sandra Harris, who regularly attends our board meetings. Never discussed. What was the point of that is to create clear and organized boundaries, which is what your edict here is. And I believe, and I could be corrected, that Loomis is the only town, city, or area that is served by 2 fire districts and makes organized boundaries a problem. So that was our intention there. Now, moving forward to this, I have to apologize. We left off Placer Hills in that last version. To say Newcastle, Penryn, South Placer, and Placer Hills, we would love to see a full study of that last option. Because what I think we find ourselves in is a place where our districts as an entirety are having financial problems. Not one, not two, but essentially all of us. And what we need to figure out is what that financial impact and problem is, and how that affects us, and how we as a group, LAFCO, Board of Supervisors, Board Commissioners, public, can fix those problems. And you can't find out what that is if you don't know what the problem is. And the financial problem is that we don't know what that problem is. I came in today not knowing that us asking for that portion of Loomis would cause a $160,000 hit to our friends, our mutual aid partners, and our neighbors. We, me, and my board, I'm sure can attest to this, would never want to do that to one of our neighboring agencies. That's not who we are. That's not what we do. But that was never on our radar. So that's a simple instance of we don't know what we don't know. And so while I appreciate everybody in Penryn, and you have a phenomenal fire district, you have a phenomenal board, and you have a phenomenal community. And I wish we could, in Granite Bay and Loomis, mirror that and echo that throughout our organization. But for us as a district and a service to this community, we must understand what the financial implications are. And the only way we do that is digging in and taking a look. And so we made this request. Again, my apologies to Placer Hills for leaving him off. I implore you to consider it. I know what you've heard, but I think that we have to look bigger picture, and it's not a Penryn thing, it's not a South Placer thing, it's not a Newcastle, it's not a Forest Hill, Auburn, pick any of all of this. We have to examine what the financial issues are if we're ever going to address them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, both. Thank you, Chief. So, all right, I don't see any more public comment in the boardroom here. I'm going to close and open up those that are online. Anybody like to speak online?
Sandra Harris.
Sandra. All right, Sandra.
Yes, yes. This is Sandy Harris. I appreciate what Chief Dewar said. As he knows, I've been to I can't remember missing a board meeting, and this is news to me that this was on the agenda tonight. I have a bad taste in my mouth about consolidations because ever since our consolidation with Loomis, which was approved by LAFCO, it was never revenue neutral, and LAFCO has since admitted that. And so it's put the district I live in financial problems. And we're constantly being reminded by our board that we're financially failing. And we need to raise more tax money. And I look back and think of all the years, the 48 years I've lived here, we were getting along just fine until we consolidated. So if you're even going to start thinking about this, you better make sure it's revenue neutral, because you might think that Granite Bay has tons of money, but it isn't. A lot of people living here have been a long time resident, and it's unfair that I feel like we're supporting the Loomis Fire District, and they're not going to be assessed more money, but they want us to be assessed more. So it needs to be revenue neutral, and it needs to be done thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Next speaker.
We have Stephanie Barger.
Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. I was there earlier today, and so thanks for your vote and all your work. And I just, once again, question study after study after study. This is a financial issue. All these numbers are in your accounting systems. I'm assuming you have a pretty smart CFO. There's the accounting department, there's economic departments, and
Oop, are you there? Okay.
that are already available within the county to look at this, and you've had study upon study upon study that should be looking at all these issues and problems. So I just encourage staff to dig deep into the resources you already have versus spending money on a new study.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there another speaker?
Yes. We have Tara Morgan King.
Hello, Tara.
Hi, thank you. I just want to chime in and say thank you for what you did on the previous agenda item. And I have lived in Placer County for over 40 years. I pay all my tax dollars, and I've lived in Penryn for almost half of those 40 years. I am extremely impressed by the integrity of the Penryn Fire Department, and I urge you to oppose this agenda item. As fire in California is a serious matter, and our home fire insurance is always of contention in California. Fire is serious, but to spend so much money on a study for discussing annexation after the discussion we had over the previous 3 hours, I just don't support the study with regards to the discussion of annexation. So thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Is there another speaker?
No one has their hand up.
Okay, that concludes public comment for this item, and I believe take it to the commission for action. Motion.
I'm prepared to second Supervisor Commissioner, whatever you're talking, Gustafson's previous motion before we got to public comment.
You'd like to table this item for another date?
Yes, sir.
I wanted
just a couple of comments.
Yeah.
So we're tabling asking for the $37,000, which I am not in agreement because I don't think I need to pay somebody to figure out what I already know. And it's pretty blatant what we already know, what's happening in Placer County. So I'm not in favor of even postponing it. I'm in favor of just not funding it, period. Again, it's, I love your claps, but I want to go home too. I'm getting hungry, and you don't want to see that. But again, I also agree with one of the public commenters that, thank you, Michelle, for your services, but again, she will be leaving us, and so does that put us in a bind to have to wait till we hire another executive director? So again, with all of that's going on, considering we already know what the fiscal impacts are of all of our fire districts, I don't need to go pay somebody $37,000 to tell me something I already know. So my recommendation would be just to say no to that item instead of postponing it, considering what we have coming forward. So,
I concur. I don't want to send a negative message. I think this gives an opportunity for the fire districts to have a conversation, come back again, because I know you know a whole lot more about it than I know, and I want to hear about it. But I concur. Let's not do this.
And then I wanted to weigh in on 2 items. And Chief Dewar, thank you for standing up, and that just shows the courage that all of our firefighters and first responders have in an unfriendly room to stand up. But we need to work together to solve many financial issues with many of the districts in our county. This isn't about just these. There's a study going on the East Slope on consolidation of fire districts. So we know there's an issue. And I appreciated the comments that were made with suggestions of other money and how we fund dispatch comes out of public safety money. There's a number of services we get from those dollars, but this needs to be a more comprehensive look. When we go district by district, site by site, we're not looking at the big picture. And these men and women who serve us in the fire protection, they don't look at those lines. We all know that. They show up where they're needed and they protect us all, they save us all. Thank you for your service. I personally would like to see the study expanded to look at the financial wherewithal of others, but I'm not sure who should pay for it. I don't think we've had a policy discussion on who pays, how it pays, and how large that study should be. So by postponing it, I would like us to be part of that discussion too. What makes sense, not just because we received one letter that I think is valid. I don't think South Placer wanted to hurt anyone else. I trust you that you didn't want to do that, but that's how it came across. So now we're trying to clarify that. Now what do we do? And so I just wanted to say that by postponing it, I think we all need to be at the table. How do we solve the issue of getting the very best service we all want to protect our families, our loved ones, and our properties? So, yeah.
And also one more comment. I've had extensive conversations with both chiefs, and we're all probably on the same page of we know what's going to happen. The writing is on the wall. It's actually on the notebooks. It says we have no money. But from my conversations with them, they understand what the consolidation at the end of the day is going to look like. And I think that that's something we have a more in-depth, in the weeds conversation, and I continue that with both our chiefs and with our board, and eventually bring what our conversation is to the public and let you know exactly what we're really digging into, so you guys have your opportunity to express your feelings and your opinions as well. So I'm ready to make a motion on, just to say no on item 8A, and that's my motion.
Well, there's a
We got
motion on the table.
A motion on the table.
And if I could.
Wait, hold on, there's
Sure.
Commissioner Eklund would like to
Go ahead.
say something.
In addition to Supervisor Gustafson and DeMattei, I've learned a lot sitting in this room today, and I did not have my mind made up, but it seemed a little more clear until it became really foggy. And I have taken in a lot of information, and I think above anything, the message that I'm seeing that I think falls in line with my fellow commissioners is that we can definitely improve on our communication and just to sort of back up our executive officer. This is a unique situation in that we are really behind and sort of feel like she's unintentionally getting blamed for the sins of the past, and we're trying to play catch up, and she's just trying to do her job. And I think that's been pointed out that she's really great about getting and collecting all of this data. It's complex. With that being said, I think that it's clear to me that we need to be really creative moving forward and treat this more unique and collaboratively with everybody, whether or not that's I think us improving and having discussions on a policy level of how we handle these sort of really big situations and districting and consolidations, and also it being collaborative between all of our chiefs and departments, and we all talk together and figure out a solution moving forward. And then maybe more outreach for these really big, complex situations, whether that be, because this is really confusing content for me. Even being a commissioner, it took me months to understand some of the jargon and the legality of all of LAFCO. So I don't expect anybody to understand half of this. And so that makes sense to me. And I think it's our job to bridge that gap as best as we possibly can with these things that are affecting so many people and our most coveted public safety officers and first responders that we care so deeply about. You deserve extra work, and maybe that is more newspaper media outreach and just us just doing whatever we can to talk to every chief whenever there's anything coming up specifically more. I'm sure we're already doing that, adequately, but maybe there's room for improvement. So anyway, I'm in agreement with my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner Youngblood.
Okay, and what I'm about to say is not going to try to sway your guys' vote. All I want to say is I'm taking off my commissioner hat to say, as a council member of Loomis, I have met, and I actually helped implement the Loomis Public Safety Committee, and part of that reason was because I came from Penryn. I moved to Loomis. I have a love for public safety. I've worked with Chief Dewar and Chief Gao, and actually had a conversation with them about 6 months ago about what would be the benefit going forward if we helped each other, we partnered and we championed. So this is a conversation that I'm confident that they can work through. I'm sure it was a clear oversight. I know Chief Dewar very well, and I know that he did not intentionally mean, as he said. Like I said, I am on the Public Safety Committee with him. We have a lot of conversations, and I know that this was something that is going to be worked out without a study. We don't need to pay the $37,000, actually almost $38,000. Not only can Loomis not afford it, but Penryn definitely can't afford it. So I feel like at this point we should allow them to have a conversation and work this out, so that way this maybe potentially will help benefit all the fire departments. And we don't. I'm an alternate today. All I'm saying is maybe this might even end up as a learning experience being better than the previous action we just, previous item that we just kind of pulled back. So I would say, I'm being very careful with not influencing your opinion. All I'm saying is I know for a fact that there's going to be more conversations made, and they're trying to work together to champion everybody. So I'm going to just let you guys get back to your voting, but I wanted to say that as a council member and as an alternate commissioner tonight,
Thank you, Commissioner.
that I had a little insight as well, and he's met with them, but I have as well if the time.
Kind of running on a timeline because we just got notified
Oh, that's fine.
that our IT is going to shut off here in about
Yes.
6 minutes, and I'd
And
like
I'm
to
turning
get
off
through
my
an
mic.
item.
We
At
wanna
least
make
have this
resolution
item.
on this,
So
yes.
there is a motion on the table, I believe, right? Anthony, is that the motion that we have?
Did we have one from?
And I seconded it.
It's-
So what's the, technically, what do I need? Do I need to take an action, or does he need to take an
I
action?
took action.
He took action, you second the action of just killing the motion, or just ending this item, not approving the item. The item can come back at another day. It's not being tabled, not going to be referenced. It's just the item that is before us is not going to be funded or at this time.
I'm sorry, sir, point of order. I believe there was a previous motion on the
No.
Yep.
able to postpone,
There's,
And I'm willing to withdraw that
and I will
motion.
withdraw that as well, so that your motion can stand, but I think
Okay.
we need to do
So
that
then,
first.
do you want me to reread it? Restate it?
I think it was.
yes, restate your motion.
All right, I make a motion that we deny the funding for the estimated $37,745 from LAFCO budget, the study that benefits the wider western region with the company stated in the, I don't have it with me, hold on. Yeah, Ridgeline, thank you very much. Too many papers.
Do I need to restate a second?
You want a second? You want a second?
All right,
There,
I'm restating my support for that, but it is with the understanding and hope that there's going to be that conversation that would have happened with a postponement.
There will be.
Thank you.
So,
First.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstained? Motion carries. And I'd just like to say in closing on the comment in that item was not intentionally to take a jab at anybody or to get over on any water agency. It was a mere, what was happening was there was a financial study that was already in progress that looked like it may be having problems. And I believe staff reached out to try to engage in another financial study this all has to do with trying to provide service to a failing a district that's on the verge of failing, which is at Newcastle. So I don't think anybody was trying to do ill intent things or anything, but it probably could have been communicated a little lot better and put out in play. But we'll take that note, and hopefully as you guys work through things, this will come back to us in a more comprehensive way to provide some solutions. Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to move right to staff report. Ms. McIntyre.
8B.
Oh, no, you can leave anywhere you want now.
You can leave, go ahead.
Go ahead, you guys can do it.
We only got like.
Thank you.
Well, you have
Thank you for your patience tonight.
Okay.
Oh, 3 minutes left?
3 minutes left. 3 minutes left.
3 minutes left, we gotta go fast. All right, staff report.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have anything to add to your staff report?
No, nothing, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, we'll let the staff report reflect that in the staff report tonight, we received a letter from our executive officer, Ms. McIntyre. She has, it looks like she has been given an opportunity to represent, to be the executive officer of Cal LAFCO. With that, I'm going to ask that the commission or Amy to reach out to the commission to hold a special meeting in the next few weeks to bring up a strategy of how to deal with this last minute, with this new challenge in front of LAFCO. And congratulations, Michelle. We thank you for the hard work. You are very instrumental in helping this organization turn itself around in the last 4 years. We are tackling issues that have not been tackled, and as we see tonight, they're not easy, and we all got a little bit tougher skin out of it. But thank you very much for your leadership and your expertise in sharing your time with us and helping us move forward as Placer LAFCO grows. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Adjourn, second.
So moved. Second.
Thank
All in favor?
Aye.
Boom. There it is. Okay.
Well done, Josh.
So